But here's Jonathan Joseph.
With the 37th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Jalen Petrie, DB from Baylor.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Kansas City Chiefs have traded the 50th pick to the New England Patriots. With the 50th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the six-time Super Bowl champion, New England Patriots select Tyquan Thornton, wide receiver, Baylor.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Bolt Nation, what's good? I see y'all.
A lot of people.
With the 79th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft,
the Los Angeles Chargers select J.T. Woods, defensive back, Baylor. Let's go!
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
With the 88th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver from South Alabama, baby. Don't be hating.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon. Welcome to a new week, a new month, May 2nd. I almost gave my birthday. Today's my birthday, and thank you, Paul Catalina, Faith Lynch, Jack McKenzie, also Armstrong Sims, Craig Smoak. A cookie cake and cookies that that's kind of become our tradition, right? To go to the Great American Cookie Company and just tear one of these up. Just tear one of these up.
Yeah, speaking of a sponsorship,
They would be great because we could definitely say that we use them and that we are, purchasers of their product. But yes, happy birthday. Hopefully it's been a good day so far.
Been a good day so far. And one of the things that I do every year, and it's a part of wherever we are now with Sikkim 365, is we honor student athletes from local high schools. And we'll announce the 20 winners, 10 boys and 10 girls from around the Central Texas area who excel in athletics and academics. And even a couple of them that are going to United States Military Academy. Sorry, that might be mine.
That was me.
And no, mine's about to be that way. So, what a weekend. There's no way in 3 hours that we could probably summarize everything. From the draft to stories about the draft, about stories within the draft, stats about teams that just dominated the draft and those who struggled. The O'Shawn Mathis commitment from TCU stunned me when Craig sent me that text, and some of the reverberation from that. Keith McCullough, hell of a player at Texas Tech, kind of like their leader, announcing he's going to transfer. And he had Kansas among the two, and that sent the Texas Tech fan into, they spiraled down because of it's kind of what's happened, as far as going in possibly to a rival, which everybody seems to have something like that happen. Also, we're going to hear from David Hellman on the Cowboys draft. Eric Nadel, Hall of Fame Rangers broadcaster. He's a Hall of Famer himself on just him being inducted May 21st into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame in that media wing. So what do we want to get to first? What's the Georgia 15 players drafted?
Yeah. And
did they win the national title?
Yes, they did.
How did they win the national title?
Well, because they have the most NFL players. Look, they have 15. And this is going to shoot off into another topic, and I don't mean it to it's easy to pile on the University of Texas, and because we're all fans of schools that don't like them, then it's easy for us to do it too. But this is, I just wanted to be matter of fact about it. Like with O'Shawn Mathis picking Nebraska over Texas. If I'm O'Shawn Mathis, I want a place that's going to be a better shot of going to the NFL. And right now, as bad as Nebraska's been, they had 3 or 4 guys drafted the other day. And if you look at where Texas wants to be, which is where Georgia is, and where they actually are, it's 15-0 draft picks right there.
Yeah, that's stunning when you put it. And Georgia had once-in-a-lifetime type of class. Texas had one of those back in the early 80s, but yeah, a huge class.
You can drop it down to Alabama, it's 12-0, which is really where they want to be, which is Alabama, because everybody, that's what you want to be. You want to be the team that's perennially there in and out. And, guys, we've talked about it on the show all the time about that if Texas gets out on a recruit, that recruit gets a star added. I think they need to, for the good of the University of Texas maybe, get that free star taken away because players are going. Look, Baylor had 6 guys drafted, right? 6 guys. 6 guys drafted, all of whom came to Baylor at a time when Baylor was in dire straits.
Yeah, it was a dumpster fire, unknown, and yet those guys all getting drafted this past weekend.
And so if you're looking at Texas where it gets guys that everybody wants, so the evaluation is either wrong, which means it's wrong for everybody because everybody wants those guys. So it can't be that. It's the development that's bad. So you're going to Baylor and Alabama and Georgia and LSU and Nebraska, for God's sakes, A&M, all these other places around and getting better, and you're going to Texas and getting worse. Steve Sarkisian has a mountain to climb when it comes to that.
Yeah, either worse or they don't get better once they get on campus. And we're not trying to pop on UT because Bijan Robinson could be a top 5 or 10 pick next year. Xavier Worthy, Craig brought that up Friday, perhaps a top 5 or 10 pick the following year, along with others. But it does seem to be weird that they get these players and they are just in such a funk, which maybe they're about to break out of it, which we've said 10 times. But, Craig, your thoughts about they get nobody. They get a couple of guys signed following the draft.
Well, Texas isn't within my top 10 stories from this weekend, but I understand why it's of interest. And it is interesting that they had 0 guys selected. I think they had 5 or 6 undrafted free agents. But, yeah, it speaks to the lack of development that goes on there. I do think there's an element of you go to Texas and there's just supposed to be this automatic of, like, you just just translates to wins, just being there. And I think for too long they've had guys who think that you just put on burnt orange and that automatically turns into becoming the next Vince Young or Cedric Griffin or, Cedric Benson or whoever. And, there's just no excuse to not have any draft picks in this class. I mean, you look at their last 5-6 classes and for the most part, they're all pretty much, top 5, top 10, at worst, top 15. And maybe there's an outlier in there. But there's a lot of factors in play. I think some of it is not even what they're doing so much as what other people are doing, like a Baylor. But yeah, there's a big mess that's been kind of brewing there for a while in terms of their player development. And, we kind of said this several months ago and had very quickly some UT fans of like, you don't know what you're talking about. Sam Ehlinger got better over his 3 years. Okay, Sam Ehlinger got better. Now name a bunch of other guys, because there's not a bunch of other guys. A lot of other guys are just who they were, or they're worse than they were when they were in high school. Yeah, that's the part that needs to really be addressed, in my opinion, and that goes into the culture thing, and that goes into the whole entitlement thing and all of that. And, it's no secret what their issue's been, because we're talking about it and everybody brings it up and talks about the development or the entitlement or whatever, and they know what the issue is, and yet there's still that issue there. And hopefully, if you're a Texas fan, Steve Sarkisian can carve that all the way out. I mean, get every last bit of that kind of cancerous thing to the program out of there, and then go from there. But there's still some of it lingering, obviously, because, yeah, guys are not across the board getting better like they should be getting better. And that's on Tom Herman. That's on I guess to a lesser extent. I can't put a lot on Sarkisian because he's been there for a year, so it's not like he had a whole lot of time to get these guys ready. But I do think in 2 years, Dave Aranda got Jalen Petrie into a whole nother level of a draft pick. I think there was, guys that maybe in this Baylor class you were expecting to get drafted, but certainly some went higher. Why? Because they developed, because they got developed over their time and they turned into the players they turned into. They didn't just walk in as 4 or 5 stars and then just think that was okay enough. And I don't think that's every mentality of every Longhorn player, but in general, that is the mentality, and that's why you see the result you saw over the weekend.
Go ahead. Cincinnati, by the way, and I want to make sure I mention that they had 9 players drafted.
Yeah. Okay.
Cincinnati, and of course, Luke Fickell's done an incredible job, played in the semis, and they're not done. They lost some good people now, and they got to kind of reload. But they kind of are in a pretty damn good mood right now too.
But they're developing at Cincinnati. Luke Fickell's doing a great job there. Now the same disease that afflicts Texas afflicts the Cowboys, which is at least one symptom of it is they look at themselves through the prism of their greatest accomplishments instead of where they are now. The Cowboys draft, and we'll talk about it throughout the show, but it does continue their offseason of whatever, because you look at what they're doing and it looks like they are drafting for a team that can overcome some of these issues. Now, you can knock Tyler Smith, and maybe Jermaine Johnson or Tyler Linderbaum would have been a better pick at that spot. But the knock on Tyler Smith is what? That he commits too many penalties. Well, who's the guy he's replacing? A guy who committed too many penalties.
Yeah.
So that has nothing to do with Tyler Smith. It is a lack of self-awareness on the coaching staff, that a staff that did nothing with a veteran last year who committed too many penalties. You can't. You think you can coach a rookie out of it?
Well, So do you feel like, and we're going to be going back and forth. Yeah. The chat room's going, the text line 254-339-1122. Do you feel like that, and again, we're going to be bouncing around from the college part of it to the NFL. Cowboys, did they draft for to win now, or did they draft for building for the future? Because they have a team that's put together to try to win now. But the guys they draft to help them win now, the South Alabama receivers, really pretty good. Kind of almost a Michael Gallup too. Tyler Smith might take a couple of 2 or 3 years. So while the Eagles seem to load up for trying to win now, they're in a division that the Giants and Redskins are kind of a mess. Not sure if they help themselves either, but it's weird. And they always have an answer. Everybody does. It's like National Signing Day. This is the guy we had ranked highest on our board, that kind of thing. We got everybody we wanted. And Texas, they do get almost everybody they want. The O'Shawn Mathis thing about that, first of all, it stunned me. I've been on record. You guys know it stunned me. Gary Patterson, he's from Maynard, Texas, is right next to Austin. The thing that stunned me was the fact that he picked Texas over Nebraska. And even as bad as Texas has been, they've been better than Nebraska. The part that was funny to me, and it really was like, are you serious, is complaining about the fact that it was an NIL deal. It was, but it's from a school that fan base and even media where Texas has been really good when it comes to NIL.
Yeah, they have been, and they got out on NIL. That's fine. O'Shawn Mathis, that was a bit of a shocker. I mean, there did seem like there was a good bit of momentum for Nebraska there to the point where it wasn't just an automatic that he was going to Texas. So, yeah, good win for Scott Frost. I mean, it was an interesting choice. You go to Texas where they're still – developing under Steve Sarkisian or trying to, or go to Nebraska where Scott Frost is basically trying to hold on to his job for dear life. What's interesting to me is I don't think he just makes Nebraska like so much better.
No.
So whatever NIL deal they paid him, like, to me, it's great that they landed him. It's a nice win, but, I mean, does it change the trajectory of their program all that much? I don't know. But then again, I can't imagine that's the only play that they have. So it's not like they think that, oh, if we just get O'Shawn Mathis, that, this is what's going to turn the corner, but it'll help turn the corner. He's a great player. I was surprised by that. The Gary Patterson connection, you think that makes somebody want to lean a certain way, but maybe it made them lean the opposite way. I don't know. But ultimately, yeah, this was an NIL thing, which was a hot topic this weekend, and he's going to go to Nebraska, and they'll probably, they could very well end up with a first-round draft pick next year because of it if he goes there and succeeds and does well. But yeah, it wasn't a great weekend for Texas. It wasn't, the best weekend for certain teams. It was one hell of a weekend for Baylor, though, guys.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I mean, come on now.
11
6 draft
players,
picks.
6 draft.
Forget who didn't get drafted or what school didn't get drafted, guys. The school that we cover on a daily basis had a record-breaking class. And so, for those that aren't developing, there were some guys here that we've been watching the last 3-4 years that got developed pretty damn good.
And we're going to hear from 2 of them. One who was drafted, Terrell Bernard, by the Bills, and also Xavier Newman-Johnson. Great story with him. The offensive lineman signed as an undrafted free agent by the Tennessee Titans. Among the players drafted, there were 6. Who was not drafted that you thought might get drafted? Abram Smith?
Only one answer. Yeah, it's Abram Smith. And the fact that it took 5 minutes after the last draft pick for him to get a deal that's amongst the best undrafted free agent deals is great for him, although I'm sure he wishes he could have heard his name called. But it's just silly to me that a team wouldn't have just drafted him in the 6th round and gotten him for cheaper than not drafting him and then having to pay him like certain money guaranteed. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you not just draft him? I don't get that at all, but it worked out for him because he got way better money than he would have gotten at a 6th or 7th round pick, but that just made no sense to me. I mean, as I'm watching certain running backs coming off the board, I do think there's an element of Baylor fans who probably overrate him a little bit. I saw he's going to come in and be your starter, and I'm like, well, wait a second, give him a second to kind of settle in. But I mean, would it be surprising if he did end up sticking around and being a player who plays a lot for the Saints? Not at all. But yeah, I was just puzzled of why you would not draft him for cheaper, but then be so quick to go and grab him as soon as it was over with.
It happens all the time.
No, I know it does, but it's a strange thing.
Yeah, and the Cowboys had a kid from Florida A&M that they really, really liked. They didn't draft him, but then they gave him $200,000 in guaranteed money. You kind of have that game. There's a lot of teams that like Tony Romo, but no one felt like they should draft him. And the Cowboys had to outbid a few people to get him. And look what happened with that as an undrafted free agent. Abram Smith not getting drafted. And I wonder if an injury, and again, there's so many things they know, even though we think we know a lot because we cover these young men, that there's so much you'd never know that might have backed them off a little bit. Because how about Nakobe Dean? The best player on the Georgia defense. Doesn't mean he's the best NFL prospect, but the best player on the Georgia defense who went, in 3rd round to Philadelphia late because of a pectoral issue, whatever it might be. What if he ends up being really good in the pros and everybody was scared off because of perhaps the injury issue? And a lot of times, even though it might anger or frustrate a fan base or a player or an agent, the NFL doctors know. Now they're going to miss some, but they know everything there is to know about the body, the history, and the injury issues.
But again, if he's got an injury, then why did it take 5 minutes to get him after the draft? It doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm saying is, okay, if there's an injury issue, it scares you away. That doesn't mean the Saints then rush to the phone to call you and then offer you $200,000 guaranteed. So what injury? What injury was scaring them off? I know that had to come into some play, but
well, and if you look at the Saints, if the Saints roster, if I was look, the running backs are set. They've got Alvin Kamara, who might get suspended for some off-the-field stuff. They got Mark Ingram, who they brought back.
Who might not stick around.
Not stick around. And then guys like Tony Jones, Dwayne Washington, and Josh Adams are their next three backs. So Abram Smith can clearly hit, to me, if the goal is to at least get to the third back on a Saints team that uses even under the new coach Dennis Allen will kind of be the same as they were. We'll use the third running back and a guy who's going to play special teams. Abram be great on special teams. He knows how to tackle. You know that. So I think he can get to that spot, and so he wound up in a good place.
There's a lot going on. We've tried to cover some of it. The bottom line is if you're Dave Aranda and your staff, you can sit there and tell the story about all of these 11 young men who are now a part of at least an NFL team. Secondly, Drew Estrada was signed as an undrafted free agent. We'll hear from Xavier Newman and ask him about what it was like over the weekend. Did he ever think his phone was going to ring? How often was his phone being dinged, or his agent, and the conversations as the draft continued on into Saturday? There's also, again, that Georgia, the class they had, which was once in a lifetime, and they won the national title. There's also the story as well. Matthew Myers in the transfer portal. He has to make that decision. I still think he ends up going into the NBA in the draft, going to the combine and doing well. Ashley Hodge seems to think that's what he's still going to do, but he's in the portal. Then there was the Kevin McCullough one. I mentioned Texas Tech's Kevin McCullough, who's in the transfer portal, and fans are just pissed about his final two.
Mark Adams a couple hours ago tweeted that McCullough's going to stay in the draft. And that was a mutual decision. So
and if that's the case, that's good. That's really, really good.
Yeah, there's also the slide of quarterbacks that we saw in the draft. There was not a lot of interest in this group of guys, clearly, for NFL executives. Not in one of them, basically. That was very, very interesting to see. You go back and look at a mock draft from just a week ago, and there's like 5 quarterbacks in the first round, and even the Dane Bruglers.
Yep.
And and they can't predict the trades that are going to happen like they happened in the first round. AJ Brown getting traded and things like that. But I think that even for a class that was measured as not being up to par as far as quarterbacks go, you still thought, well, it's still a quarterback position. They're going to have to get those guys. And the NFL said, nuh-uh, we're going to get everything else before we get the quarterbacks, basically. So that was very interesting. To see where some of those guys did eventually land. Obviously, Kenny Pickett was the exception, but he even went later first round, so it wasn't like the typical draft. That was one of the interesting, and there was a ton of stuff like you said all weekend.
I actually think this is for mid-round or later-round quarterbacks. This was actually, if you're going to fall, Malik Willis winds up in a great spot. He doesn't have to start right away and can develop behind Ryan Tannehill. Matt Corral winds up in Carolina in a spot where if Sam Darnold struggles for a second, the fans are going to fall in love with him instantly. And then Desmond Ridder doesn't have to play right away in Atlanta, Marcus Mariota. And that's, he's a guy who's probably seen as a bit of a first-round bust because he was the second overall pick, but someone who can, guide him a little bit. And Desmond Ridder has a lot of confidence and a chip on your shoulder. So, I think for those guys, all wind up in good spots. And then Bailey Zappi, our buddy who was on the show here, winds up with the Patriots, and that's never a bad thing.
No, I just saw, I'm not looking at the text line. Somebody asked Martin or Martine, Chargers fan here, is JT Woods a plug-in starter? I don't know exactly everything about the Chargers depth chart. I do know that they are loaded in the secondary. I don't know that I would say he's a right day one plug-in starter because the Chargers do have such a good secondary. But I think he's squarely going to be in the mix of what they're doing. Obviously that's led by Derwin James. They had the big free agent signing as well from the Patriots. And they've got some good dudes. But I think JT will probably be able to kind of sit in the shadows a little bit initially, kind of learn. But would it shock me to see him starting in week 1? Not exactly, but I think with the depth or with the team that they have, he might be just kind of getting his seasoning to begin with. But I'm definitely going to be keeping track of JT and what ends up happening there. I definitely expect him to be a productive member of that football team in some form or fashion pretty much from the gate. And going back to Matthew Meyer, this is why the internet's so funny, is like you really don't know what to believe when you read things. And there's certain things that I'm sure I look at that I judge a certain way because of the way that it's posed or the way that it's phrased or whatever, and because I'm not ground zero of some story at like Ohio State or something. So I'm sure that there's been an Ohio State story, and I'm just using them as an example, where I see a headline or a story and I just come to the conclusion that I was supposed to come to or was pushed into. But then you see stories when you do know what's really going on, and you see people talking about it so matter-of-factly. And Matthew Meyer is one of those stories where I'm seeing people taking jabs at the culture of joy and, it must be NIL money and, haha, Baylor. And you just, with those comments you're showing, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about when it comes to Matthew Meyer, because this wasn't screw you, Baylor, I'm going to go get NIL money, or screw the culture of joy, I'm leaving. This is as much of a mutual decision as you could possibly get, in my opinion. So not exactly what it looks like, and that's why sometimes you can't just take everything at face value.
By the way, Baylor has reloaded their roster, knowing most likely that Meyer was not coming back. And if he does, we discussed this last week, the door is cracked, but the time is a wasted.
You would have to, if you were a Baylor player that put yourself in the transfer portal and want to come back, you'd have to really have done something for this group of people to slam the door on you.
Yeah.
So the door is always going to be open for Matthew Meyer if that's what he truly wants, is to come back to Baylor. And I think that's probably the understanding of him and his family and everything else. Two, Matthew Meyer is going to be a professional basketball player. And if he takes his name out of the draft, it might be a long shot. Well, they might tell him, look, next year's not going to help you that much. Go to the G League and do the two-way thing, and that'll be better for you right now. And three, if he goes somewhere else, he goes somewhere else. It's just kind of that's what he wants to do. But there's no bad blood or venom or anything.
This ain't Texas Tech and Kevin McCullough or Terrence Shant, whatever. Some of the stuff that's been, all the screaming and yelling back and forth with that. This is not that at all in any way.
Yeah, and good for Mark Adams in the comment. I just saw the tweet. I put it up in the chat room, by the way, of what he said about Kevin McCullough as well. Georgia 15 players, LSU 10. Cincinnati had 9, Penn State had 8, Alabama and Oklahoma had 7.
Oklahoma, they had 0, into the second round, and then they really piled them up over the last day and a half or so.
Baylor, Ohio State, Ole Miss, and UCLA had 6. Wisconsin, Tennessee, and Michigan 5, and then a whole bunch, including Iowa State, Texas A&M, with 4 players in the draft this past weekend.
And that leads me to, how about that new Big 12? You look at the numbers coming out of this draft, and the thing is, you can't expect Cincinnati to put 9 guys in the league every year.
No,
that's just not going to happen.
They hope that they're building towards that. But
you want to get to a point where, hey, every year you can count on a handful of guys, and that's great. But 9's obviously a pretty ridiculous number, and they're not going to repeat that too often. But hey, 5, 6, 4, 5, all that can be done. BYU grabbed themselves a pick. UCF had a pick late. Cincinnati obviously loaded up, and Houston had a good number of guys drafted as well, which they've been doing regularly. I do think Houston's kind of an under the radar, really solid addition, even if some of us balked at first just because of a crowded Texas market. The more you look at just their success in basketball and football and now draft and things like that, I do think Houston's going to add some great ammunition, and Cincinnati obviously did as well. And you just hope that BYU and UCF can get to a point where they're regularly producing. But you look, comparing the new Big 12 to the old Big 12, the new Big 12 would have ended up with more picks by about 6 or 7, I believe. And instead of being just kind of in the pack of the 5, they would have been the clear number 3 behind the Big 10 and the SEC. So I think that's promising that, again, you can't have, Baylor and Cincinnati, just 2 of your schools, putting all the picks up there or putting the wide majority up there. But if everybody can kind of pull their weight and get a couple guys in there each and every year and not get blanked, then there should be some good NFL production coming out of this new Big 12, and having 2 extra teams. Everybody pulls their weight, and you can be that third conference. You're not going to catch the SEC and Big 10 money wise, cable package wise, but there's certain things that you can at least chip away at. And I think having solid NFL production year in and year out, having guys in the first round, waving that banner, I think that's one way to really elevate your brand. And right now they do have more than, if you were to look at the new schools, they would have had more than the ACC, despite still having 2 less schools, and more than the Pac-12. So, that's not a bad spot to be in, but great job by Cincinnati, obviously. Baylor tore it up, and the Big 12, the current Big 12 will be higher, but again, you got Texas with 0, and that kind of hurts you. That's like Alabama having 0 draft picks or Georgia having 0 draft picks in a year. So that kind of hindered the number this year, but overall, it was not bad.
People like to go ahead.
I want to say about Marcus Jones in Houston real quick. One of my favorite picks of the draft, him and the Patriots, is a really good little match there.
I think him and anyone, actually. But one of the things you hear about the separation between the SEC and the Big Ten with money, there's no question about that. But there's also separation in draft picks between the SEC and everybody else.
Yeah.
Among the first 3 rounds, the last 7 years, the SEC has had 209 players drafted. Now, I saw this from Chris Fallica, who works for ESPN, does a great job with this. He said 46.6% played either in the SEC or the Big Ten, but about a third of those are from the SEC. 209, Big Ten at 128, Pac-12 82, Big 12 58. That's just got to go higher, and the ACC at 94. So, and yes, some conferences have more players, but there's a huge difference. Not just, when it comes to money, the SEC and Big Ten up here, but the talent level differences also there with the SEC compared to what is from any other conference as well.
That's not exactly fun with numbers because that's going to spit out pretty much the same way no matter where you look, but just why 7 years? It's just why does randomly the last set? What about the last 8? Does it dramatically change it, or does the last 6? I don't know. But the point being, the new Big 12, I think they represented themselves or showed that there's some NFL guys that can put in the league year in and year out. Cincinnati just needs to keep it up, and the others need to pull their weight a little bit more. And some of these schools, like K-State with Chris Kleiman, Kansas got a draft pick. How about that? Good for the Jayhawks, but. Iowa State eventually got some day 2, day 3 guys, but everybody needs to kind of push that up a level.
UCF has to, they
got to put some more than just one late round guy. But if everybody can pull their weight a little bit more in total with those 12 teams, they're still going to be shorthanded compared to the others. But you can definitely be respectable.
One thing about the Florida schools, and Paul, I know this hurts, but they did have Jermaine Johnson, a first-round pick. But Florida State, Miami, and Florida combined 5 picks combined.
2 in the first round.
Yes, but 5, right? Yeah. Ties the lowest total since 1971. At that, that's hard to fathom.
At that point, Florida State and Miami were total garbage. So probably just 5 from Florida.
Yeah, so
who weren't really that great.
There's all sorts of stats you can break down. One other note about the O'Shawn Mathis decision with Nebraska. Scott Frost today was hit with minor penalties by the NCAA. I'm reading the ESPN article because as a special teams coach, it is stunning that they even had one because of how they sucked on special teams the last few years. He was having some off-time workouts. So he has a 5-day suspension to be served at some point during the championship segment of the 2022 season. Not sure when that is, and also cannot go off campus to recruit for a year in a 1-year show cause. That's a pretty heavy deal. It's still kind of what could be worse, but that's what happened to Scott Frost, and I don't think that would have had any opportunity to mess with O'Shawn Mathis.
You're gonna cheat.
Who even gets busted for this stuff?
Yeah, we got to come back with. I know.
I mean, I know it happens on occasion, but this is a second time I feel like I've seen some dumb rule breaking by Scott Frost. I know you got to find an advantage.
Makes you wonder about his organizational skills and why he's been clueless. And who knows?
The way, I know we got to go, but the biggest story in college football wasn't even mentioned. A certain wide receiver who might be heading to Los Angeles.
Jordan Addison, the Biletnikoff Award winner from Pittsburgh, is like a free agent right now, and there are so many rumors floating around of where he's going to end up.
Yeah, that was one of the crazier little stories out there that remains out there. Looks like he's probably heading to USC on what was reported to be like a $2 million NIL deal. So there's a lot you can unpack from that, and there's a lot of different arguments or conversations you can have just besides NIL good, bad, whatever. Lincoln Riley said, well, hey, unless you're going to change the rules, I'm going to, do what I can. And, don't necessarily fault him for that. But, man, he is really embracing the villain role, I feel like, ever since he moved to Los Angeles. That's for sure.
There are even, in fact, this was a tweet from Tim Scott 247. He goes, based on the rumor mill, NIL is really like restricted free agency, even if you're a blue blood. If there's an asset you want to keep, be ready to match any offer. And if you're not ready to match any offer, you're not going to be successful moving forward. When we come back, Terrell Bernard of the Buffalo Bills, sick 'em. 365 Radio, 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com, Dr. Rob Maxey and his great staff can find out a couple of things when you hurt something. It's like I have a little bit of something that's going on with my hip, and I've had an x-ray, took an injection, and it's still kind of bothering me. So maybe the next thing is to rest and don't do anything for a while and see how it feels. Maybe you pop a couple of Advil every once in a while, or maybe get an MRI. And if that's the case, it will be at Ideal MRI, because they are going to find out what I need to know or what you need to know when it comes to something that might be a ligament or a muscle or something that doesn't, well, it's not right. And you hurt, and you can't function, you can't sleep, you can't do much of anything. Ideal MRI will find it with their state-of-the-art technology MRI machine in Waco in the Central Texas marketplace. And every time, $497 or less for an MRI. Every time, $497 or less, and they'll help you with your insurance filings. It's IdealMRI.com.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're committed to taking care of our customers, and that means having as much new inventory on hand for you to choose from. During the Memorial Day sales event, shop our large selection of 2022 cars, trucks, and SUVs to find the vehicle that's right for you. Need maintenance or repair? Let our skilled technicians take care of your vehicle, and we'll get you back on the road safer than before. We're not here just to sell you one car. We're here for the long haul. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one, commercial, farm and ranch, or residential. Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
So Baylor had 11 players enter the National Football League. Some will go immediately, and some camps don't start until another week or two.
And we didn't even run them down. You want me to run them down real quick while Terrell is joining us?
Yeah, let's go over the ones who, in fact, were not drafted, who were signed first. Let's do that first.
Okay, as far as the undrafted guys go, you had Abram Smith basically 2 minutes after the draft was over with, signing with the Saints, and we've seen since that's a pretty nice deal. Xavier Newman-Johnson to the Tennessee Titans, Raleigh Tejada to the Packers, Jaron McVay to the L.A. Rams, and Drew Estrada was kind of a straggler. He was the last one signed a little bit later, but by Saturday night he had inked with the Houston Texans. So 5 undrafted free agents for the Bears.
And Xavier Newman-Johnson will join us today at around 4:45 of the Tennessee Titans as well.
And then the 6 draft picks. You had Jalen Petrie early on in the second round. Tyquan Thornton, pick number 50 overall to the Patriots. Was pretty awesome to see that. Terrell Bernard to the Buffalo Bills, J.T. Woods to the L.A. Chargers, Treston Ebner to the Chicago Bears, and Kalen Barnes reuniting with Matt Rule, Phil Snow, Evan Cooper, and all those guys out in Carolina. So 6 draft picks, 5 undrafted free agents for an 11-group total.
Terrell Bernard joins us of the Buffalo Bills. And Terrell, when you hear us clicking out those names, or when you saw them also being taken, drafted, or signed afterwards, including you, what does that all mean?
Man, it just means everything. Been with, most of those guys for basically 5 years, day in and day out. And, just seeing all the work that they put in to finally reaching their goals, and, seeing everybody do that was just, really amazing.
Terrell, did you see your draft announcement, or were you on the phone with the Bills? Because Kyle Brandt, it was pretty wild.
No, I saw it. So the Bills had called me about 2 or 3 minutes before that had happened. So I was sitting there waiting for the announcement. So all of my family was around, going crazy whenever he was up there doing what he did. So it was awesome.
That was memorable, right? I mean, you're never going to forget that when you get drafted, but much less an introduction like that. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So Terrell, I was monitoring, your workouts and then all these mock drafts and things like that, and you were kind of it just depended, second, third, fourth, fifth round. But when you did get that call from Buffalo, was that surprising to you? Was it expected? And just kind of take us through that moment of getting that phone call that you've been dreaming of for so long, and just what all that was like.
Yeah, definitely. It was awesome, man. I wasn't really paying too much attention to mock drafts and things like that. Just listening to my agent and, what he was telling me, and then, what the teams that I had met with were telling me. And, I know that it was either going to be late third or early middle of the fourth round. So getting that call, was just amazing. Definitely just feel your life change when the phone rings. So it was crazy to experience. And, I saw the Buffalo Bills name pop up with the area code and everything. So, just taking it all in, and, everything starts running through your head, all the work, everything that you put into it, finally coming to fruition.
And you've done media interviews today, you're doing us, and then you're going to go straight into a workout because work doesn't stop. But everyone waits maybe for a call or an email or something, even a letter, when they've applied for a job, looking for a job. What's it like waiting around that long, knowing that it's going to be 3 days and maybe you don't know, but you got picked, thank goodness, early on?
Yeah, man, definitely nerve-wracking. Throughout Friday, I was sitting there just kind of contemplating if it was really going to happen or not that day. I'm sitting with my family. We're all just watching, and I'm super excited for all the guys. I think it was Petrie first, and then Tyquan to the New England Patriots. And then JT got drafted. So, texting those guys, calling those guys, just congratulating them. Sitting there waiting around, it's definitely nerve-wracking. You don't really know what's going to happen. But, it's all worth it when you finally get that call.
So what's it like to step into a fan base in Buffalo that is, look, and they have a history of being deeply scarred, but they are also very deeply passionate?
Yeah, man, they were awesome. I went up there Saturday morning and spent the whole day up there at the facility and, around the town. And it was just, everything that you could imagine. The fan base there is, second to none. They are deeply, deeply passionate about the Bills, and that's pretty much the main attraction in the city. So it was really cool to be up there and meet all the people, meet the staff, all the coaches and things like that. So I'm just blessed to be in this position.
Terrell, I know there's a lot of exciting things right now, but how exciting is it to go to a team that obviously plays really good defense? They've got a defensive-minded head coach, and you got guys that you're going to be sitting there around practice with, like Ed Oliver and Von Miller and Tre'Davious White. I mean, it just seems like a great situation for you.
Yeah, definitely, man. I couldn't ask for a better situation. Just being around like the guys that you mentioned, it's going to be a huge experience for me, a great learning opportunity. And like you said, we're a contender, and they've been good for a pretty long time now. So being in a winning organization around that type of culture is very exciting, and I'm ready to get to work.
Speaking of culture, we hear about the culture. We've seen the culture. We've heard the culture. We've watched the culture. What was that like, and what does it mean for Baylor to set that? From the time you arrived with Matt Rule and company to even now, of course, with Dave Aranda entering year 3, how many people along the way helped you get to where you are right now?
Man, everybody that I came into contact with at Baylor, I feel like I was able to take something and, learn from really everybody, starting from, Coach Rule and Coach Snow, my defensive coordinator when I first got there, and my linebackers coach, Coach Saravo, all the way to, support staff, academic staff, strength staff, and transitioning into, Coach Aranda's time there. I think I learned, so much that, it can't even be quantified, just what those guys have taught me, and, how to go about my day, how to go about my business and handle myself. So, I thanked pretty much every single person, called them or texted them at least, just telling them how thankful I was for the time and effort and energy that they put into all of us throughout these years.
Terrell, what was it like to walk into that Bills facility for the first time?
Yeah, it was awesome, man. So I got to meet the players, talked with Coach McDermott again for a while, talked to Coach Frazier, the defensive coordinator, and then met the owners and, all the other staff members and stuff. And it was just amazing, man. I couldn't ask for anything better.
Do you get free chicken wings now that you're a Bills player?
I hope so. I heard they got the best buffalo wings up there, so I hope so.
Yeah, that's something that, in fact, the guy that introduced you from the NFL Network had a buffalo wing in his pocket, I think, from like 3 days prior to that, so it was good luck as well.
Kyle Brandt.
Kyle Brandt. He was fantastic. We're going to try to get him on the show. We need to do that because that's going to be attached to you forever. Thank goodness that it was a great moment. How many of the guys, and I would think tons, how many text messages? What's that like? You're trying to figure out who's going to call you. Then they do, and all this stuff. How many different Baylor players or coaches have you heard from?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's probably been pretty close to every single one. Right after you get drafted, you have to do the media stuff for whatever team picks you. So, trying to log on to the Zoom was difficult because my phone wouldn't stop, ringing and blowing up and stuff. So. After I got through that stuff, I called everybody back or texted everybody back. And, I'm just thankful to have, the guys around me that I do because they're, so supportive and, really care about you and care about your situation and, what's going on. So it was amazing, just to have that opportunity to, finally reach, one of your biggest dreams in life and then be supported by, your best friends.
Terrell, quite a whirlwind this last year. I mean, really, your whole time at Baylor was a whirlwind, obviously. But, I mean, Big 12 champions and the style that it was done, Sugar Bowl champions, and now, a record number of draft picks. I mean, you guys probably went through more than just about any class possibly did over a 4 or 5 year stretch. But I know we kind of keep repeating it here, but I just can't imagine the level of pride and satisfaction you guys must have. You guys, Petrie, Thornton, et cetera, to have left the mark that you guys left before you before you departed?
Yeah, definitely, man. That was the main thing we wanted to do before we left Baylor, was really just leave it in a better place and, try to help establish, the culture that's there and, the winning and the off the field, just everything, man, just tying it all together. And, we felt like we did a good job at that. We ended up, like you said, winning the Big 12, winning the Sugar Bowl, getting a bunch of guys drafted, doing a lot of good things off the field. So, we couldn't be more happy. It took a lot of work, a lot of effort, and we had a lot of help from all the staff that's been through Baylor. So definitely a great feeling to kind of accomplish what we wanted to accomplish there.
I don't know how many people may have done this, but I did text Matt Rule after, I guess it was after the draft, after the Friday, and the four players who were drafted. Did he reach out to you guys and do a FaceTime with you?
Yeah, he did. Literally right when I got off of, all the media stuff with the Bills social team, he FaceTimed me and, we talked for probably 5-10 minutes, just, reminiscing. He's telling me how proud he was of me and, just how proud we made him and, really how we kind of took everything and ran with it and, did it our way and figured it out. So it was definitely a special moment because, I remember being 18-year-old freshman walking in, just terrified, trying to find my way. So, kind of a full circle moment.
Terrell, you saw the spring game. You and Jalen were there. Others were there as well. What did you see? Did you see the next wave? You knew some of those guys are back, and then some of them are new. Your thoughts about Baylor moving forward with Coach Aranda?
Yeah, I think they're in a great position. Coach Aranda's, I think, the best coach in the country. Just how he does things and how the team responds to him. And just talking from the spring game, man, I feel like those guys looked, in mid-season form, honestly. I think the defense was, catching itself, getting itself together and, making plays and making things happen. I think you saw the front seven kind of dominating throughout the whole game. And then, on offense with Coach Grimes and Mateos and, Juice and all those guys, I think that's going to be a really dangerous group, with Tay running the ball, throwing it to Monterey and guys like that, and Josh Cameron. I think those guys have a chance to do, something even more special than what we did.
So, okay, man, I'm going to tell you this. Everybody that was drafted and those who were signed afterwards, it is an incredible group to cover. You many times, Jalen, of course, Abram, all the ones that we have. We have Xavier Newmont, McVay. Like Craig said, Drew Estrada later after the draft. It's pretty amazing the group you guys turned out to be from where you came when the program where it was when you arrived, and you've made an impact forever on what's happened with Baylor football. We appreciate everything you've done, and also good luck to you going forward.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me on.
Yeah, man, get a break in there if you can. I know it's probably been busy, but try and catch your breath before it gets even crazier. But man, congratulations, dude! Everybody's beaming for you, and it was so cool to see where you went and who you went to. So man, we're rooting for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks for your time. Thank you, Terrell Bernard. Fantastic story. All of them, all 11 have great stories. He's one drafted by the Bills. Xavier Newman-Smith was not. And we'll talk to him a little bit later today. Xavier Newman-Johnson, we will talk to him a little bit later on today at about 4:45.
If I had told you 4 years ago that they were going to have four guys all drafted before the sun came up on Saturday, I think with those classes, you've been like, I don't know, man.
I'll say this. I mean, Taekwon and Terrell went way higher than I was expecting them to go. Jalen went right about where you thought. Jalen, it would have been interesting if maybe there wasn't the big receiver to do in the first round, if perhaps he sneaks into like the 30th, 31st, 32nd pick. Maybe not. Maybe it would have stayed the exact same way. But either way, he was pegged to go borderline first round late or, sometime early in the second, and he 5 picks into the second round, there he was getting picked. But Taekwon at 50, like, are you kidding me? And to the Patriots of all teams, and they trade up for him? That was definitely a result somewhat of the receiver run. But, hey, it benefited the hell out of him, so good for Taekwon. Like, that's amazing that he went as high as he did, top 50. And then Terrell, I was partially shocked just because of Kyle Brandt's antics of just like, I was so caught up in him, eating a chicken wing and screaming and yelling and all that. But then when he announced Terrell Bernard right afterwards, I was like, whoa, wait a second. Like, I had to snap out of it. And then I had to look at like where it was, and I was like, wow, he's going early too. Like, I mean, he just said somewhere, third, fourth round, but I still feel like he went maybe a shade higher than expected, and that's awesome. So that was two guys that definitely benefited.
How much? Okay, you have to play, but don't you think all 11, and I'm not saying this as a guy that does Sick'em 365 radio, I would think all 11 of those players who were drafted or signed after the draft were remarkable in the one-on-one interviews with coaches and players and staff. Or not with players, but with coaches and staff. I would think we've interviewed them all.
Yeah, at least, maybe not media. I mean, like Tyquan Thornton is kind of a quiet
about
but like
any type of one-on-one with teams.
As far as the job interview, I bet you talking to coaches, they're great. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and they've had two different coaching staffs that would have prepared from that. And then if you're Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard, who both kind of touched the Jim Grobe staff as well a little bit. Yeah, that's three very professional head coaches that you had to deal with. So, yeah, it didn't surprise me.
I mean, it goes back to that team in 2016 when Bryles was fired, that staff that was around, and some of the connections even to back in 2016, which is pretty amazing. There is some interesting stuff. I saw this on Sick'em365.com in the premium section, connected to Texas. And I mentioned that quote earlier about if you're a blue blood and you have assets, you better be ready to protect them, almost like restricted free agency. Markel Hall on our chat room just mentioned this, that UT, there's at least something out there about how other teams are trying to poach UT's roster staff.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Including Barron by Oregon, and again, Xavier Worthy by USC. USC's looking for another receiver. It's going to be Addison, most likely. At least that's what you hear. But, man, I'm telling you, it's pretty interesting. Jaden Barron?
Jaden Barron, he was a Baylor commit.
Yeah.
It's Jade Barron. Jade Barron was a Baylor commit, and then I forget the exact timeline. He flipped to Texas at some point and signed with them, obviously. But, yeah, he was a Baylor guy for a while and then made that switch. So, yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think that's one of the things we've heard from coaches more often than probably any other quote is the recruiting piece now is you're recruiting your own roster. We've heard that from coordinators. We've heard that from head coaches. And, that's an unfortunate side effect of the NIL deal. There's definitely positives to it. I know there's a lot of arguments about it and whatnot. I've just come to accept it, and there are certain elements of it, though, that I refuse to accept, and I will say, no, I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right that Lincoln Riley can just go grab Jordan Addison for $2 million. I think it's right that Jordan Addison should be able to leave. I think it's right that Jordan Addison should be able to make money, but just like USC swooping in and grabbing him for there's just something that reeks with that, and it's nothing to do with the player making money before everybody wants to come up with that dumb, response. It has nothing to do with that. It just sucks for a lot of people involved. Not for Addison, though, and that's who it's about. So, but yeah, I mean, Xavier Worthy seeing somebody try to poach him, especially Lincoln Riley, no, I don't doubt that for 1 second.
Well, yeah, look, I think about it as kind of a weird comparison, but you remember that movie Desperado, Craig?
Yeah.
Where Antonio Banderas is walking around in the town in Mexico and everybody's protecting the drug lord and they're just good people. And it's why? Because the drug lord's giving them all money.
Right.
Now, it's great that the poor people have money, but is it good that they did it the way that they're doing it? No. And that's why Antonio Banderas has to come in and clean up the town. But I think that there's got to be something done with NIL and the transfer portal in which it's not this. There's got to be something, but the problem is you've already made the rules without putting any restrictions on them. So putting restrictions on them and then trying to enforce them is not possible under what we're doing. Yeah. So it's hard to do that.
And by the way, I saw a little pattern developing over the weekend when the Jordan Addison story was out there. So noticing a lot of people are like, this sucks for college football and this is the worst and man, how awful for Pitt and whatever. And then there's a lot of people congratulating Jordan Addison saying this sucks for Pitt, but it is good for him or whatever. And then there was a whole crowd that was just like, this is the best. I love chaos. NIL's the greatest. Every day it's something new and all that. And I've talked about the little agents of chaos. They don't even really care about the players or anything. They just want to see change and they just want to see disruptions. And that is pretty much, across the board with probably whatever that they are entertained by. But there is a segment that really fights back when you start to say anything negative about NIL in any way, and they try to like blanket state me to death of like you don't like the players or you don't like them getting money, and it's not that at all. It's just the scenario in which it's happened. And you know what I found was pretty much 95% of the people who were like, oh, well, you hate NIL, this is the greatest, were from USC and Miami, and I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
Wonder why those two fan bases are particularly on one side, because that was very noticeable. I started going through and I was like, wait a second, Canehead, Trojan boy, and like nearly every one of these like 50 whatever responses were Canes or Trojans. And so they've made it very clear where they stand in it, and Lincoln Riley said like, hey, until you stop me, I'm going to do it. And I get all that, but just be careful when you read social media that 50 responses might feel like, man, everybody thinks that NIL is great. But then when you realize it's from two fan bases and whose two fan bases are, then it makes a little bit more sense that not everybody's on board with it.
I want to read this from Markel, who's a UT fan. And Markel, we love the fact you're on our chat room, and you're the one that brought up some of the scuttlebutt about Xavier Worthy and also Jahdae Barron. We may have lost our best secondary player in Barron today, as Oregon offered up $200,000. Again, this is all chat room message board. If it's true, it's true. We'll find out. But here's the part where, Markel, I have to check you a little bit. NIL is getting out of hands when big brands aren't safe. It doesn't have to be because big brands aren't safe. It's getting out of hand whether the big brands or the middle brands or whatever are safe. Just if the big brands are fine, then it's okay. I kind of think it's neat that sometimes the big brands get raided.
I think it's only fair, and I think that's going to happen. Yeah, I think that's just, hey, you can't have it all your way all the time. You can't say, oh, well, we're free to go and poach anybody we want to, but you can't touch our guys. Like, hey, you want to go and grab a guy, then there's a good chance that somebody's probably going to come and grab your guy. I wonder how many phone calls Bijan Robinson's received this offseason.
Oh, I'm sure.
You think a few? I'm sure he has, and I hope he stays at Texas, even if that means that they beat Baylor and they beat Oklahoma and whatever. I want him to stick where he's been. I want Texas to get credit for that draft pick. Xavier Worthy, same thing. But, yeah, I mean, you can't have it just one way where they only come in, they don't go out. And so, yeah, get ready because everybody's going to get dealt with it at some point. That Jahdae Barron thing is wild, though. Like, if that's – and I see a lot of the smoke about that $200,000 offer or whatever – that's interesting. So I want to see if that's, finalized at some point, but there is some smoke about that.
It is not at all surprising to me that the center of NIL chaos is in Miami and LA.
That's my point.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of people that do things to be seen there.
Oh, yeah.
Not because they really care. They care about being seen, and they have money to throw around. And that's pretty dangerous when you have people who don't care about what they're doing and they just care about what it looks like.
Yeah, we've already seen Miami nearly just go off the rails with the situation last week with the basketball player that eventually sorted itself out. And hey, like if Trojans and Hurricanes fans want to be all about it because that's what's going to return them to the glory days, then I mean, I totally understand it, but I also think there's unintended consequences sometime. And it was funny. I saw a tweet from Colin Cowherd. I don't follow him, but occasionally his tweets will get into my timeline. And he was, bagging on the anti-NIL folks. It's not even anti-NIL. It's anti some parts of NIL. That's the thing. You're not anti-NIL. You just wish there was some rules. You just wish there was a little bit more of a process rather than just, hey, randomly Jahdae Barron can just get poached away from Texas for $200K by Oregon. Like that's what people like, hey, have him go to Oregon for $200. Can we have it like in a more succinct, professional, organized way than just the seediness behind the scenes that, yes, has always gone on, but doesn't mean it always has to go on. Just because it's been that way doesn't mean it has to stay that way. But yeah, man, it's a wild, wild west. So Colin Cowherd was talking about, all these people, there's doomsday mentality of, NIL is going to kill college football. When reality, Miami and USC is being in the mix is healthier for college football. And I saw somebody point out, like, yeah, I guess they just love Georgia, Bama in the national championship every year. No, I don't think people love that. But why is it that your point is, oddly enough, about those two schools? Like, I don't think Colin Cowherd would ever mention the benefits of NIL for Baylor or TCU or Iowa State or San Diego State or really anybody that's not a blue blood. But he is a blue blood guy, so he's rooting for the blue bloods to be able to just basically go and, hey, our recruiting class sucked, doesn't matter. Let's just go buy the best players from over here.
He has stuck his head up the USC butthole so badly.
He has, and Miami's to now an extent as well. And so
that's fine, right?
And he had a general point, but when you realize who it's coming from and what his intentions are, he doesn't give a damn about anybody that's not like a top 20 program all time. and especially he loves USC. So I thought that was a little kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth a little bit.
Okay, we got to break the 4 o'clock hour. We're a minute into it. We do at 4:20 today. We'll give you the names, 20 names of those announced as the 21-22 Academic All-Stars team, senior student athletes from Greater Central Texas. We'll give you the names. They all know, and so do their counselors, and we'll honor them on Wednesday, May the 18th at the Baylor Club at McLean Stadium. We'll come back with more from the chat room and some of the same discussion we've had. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
So Mafia, mount up! And every other fan base, listen up! Chiefs fans, Raiders fans, Bengals fans, in my hands, I hold the most important pick of this entire round. Because this pick is the only pick who will win the Super Bowl in his rookie year. With the 89th pick of the 2022 NFL Draft,
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
He could have said Fred Smidley, and I would have been fine with it. It was good. It was Drew Pearson-esque, who probably is the one that launched the ultimate of everything when he was in Philadelphia, of all places, about the Cowboys.
Yeah. Emmitt Smith was very subdued by, just said, don't be hating. That's all he said a couple times.
Yeah, that was very pro wrestling of Kyle Brandt, is just waiting for what you going to do, brother, when the Bills run wild on you. Along those lines, it was eerily similar. But, yeah, for Terrell Bernard to be the name that came out after that whole spiel, I just was, on my couch shocked. I was like, whoa, wait a second. Terrell Bernard.
I would love to get Kyle Brandt on this show, like you said, Smokey. Not only talk about that, but
the real world.
Do you realize his career arc is very strange and unique? He was on The Real World Chicago. Then he was on, for a short time, he was on Days of Our Lives. And he was a main, one of the main characters on there. And then after that, he worked for Jim Rome for a while. And then now he's been with the NFL Network, and he hosts some kind of goofy game show, I think, thing now.
He had Good Morning Football, NFL Network, 10 Questions on Spotify, The Ringer, Frogger on Peacock.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. And,
I know him from The Real World. Bottom line, I know him from The Real World, and they've had quite a few alumni. Like The Miz has become a giant wrestling star over the last decade plus. Theo Vaughn was more of a Road Rules guy, I think, but he's turned into a very good comedian and podcast host, and I'm sure there's a lot of others. There's a podcast, husband and wife duo, and one of the wife was on, I believe it was Road Rules as well. But yeah, they've had some stars. Kyle Brandt, that's how I always remember him for sure. Yeah.
He showed a picture of the piece of paper they give you when you're introducing a draft pick. It's very, very plain and simple. And he wrote a couple of his own. He put a couple of his own notes. My man, Terrell Bernard, and that was cool that it was attached to a player from Baylor. Now, lots of things going on. ZS77 on the chat room. Let's just call it what it is. It's professional athletics and college athletics. Hollywood, the Texas delusional entitled brand. Well, we've discussed the entitlement, and I think there's finally even a lot of the fans who have kind of love themselves and the team, and that's great. You're fans. Well, I think that most people have now looked in the mirror and kind of realized that. It's kind of a humbling thing.
I told you about the overlap between the Cowboys and Texas in the first hour, where both the fans kind of suffer from the same disease for some time. I think Cowboys fans, and it's about the same. So it's been 17 years since Texas won the national title, and it's been 26 years since the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. So I would say about 6 years ago was when most of the Cowboys fans started going, what happened? This has been 20 years now. And now I think the same thing is starting to happen to Texas, where it's, that was a long time ago. Like when you see Vince Young, and he's not in bad shape, but he's not in great shape. And you think, you're like, that's kind of a long time ago. He's
40 or so. And I do believe that when you have others around you in the backyard that are having success, like what Baylor's having, it can be humbling, even if you want to, how are they? How can they
Houston
be good?
Too.
And Houston, and A&M, of course, even though they're still kind of looking to get over that. The ultimate of the hurdles are kind of putting together some pretty consistent stuff as well.
And then again, where was the talent? If you look at their potential draft picks, it wasn't a great group to begin with. I mean, Josh Thompson was fine, but I don't know how much better he really got. And, he had a lot of different coaching changes that he had to deal with. Denzel Okafor was fine, but he wasn't great. Cade Brewer's fine, but he's not an automatic NFL draft pick. So, I mean, where was the talent, so to speak, that was supposed to go off the board? And that too is an indictment of, there are going to be certain years, like next year. I'm not saying Baylor's going to follow up with 6 draft picks because they don't have the core guys, but they could end up with 6 draft picks if it falls the right way and if guys develop this year. I mean, you start thinking about some of the players on defense, especially, they could very well match that next year. And like I said, Cincinnati's probably not going to put 9 guys in the league every year. So there's going to be times where you might have a good run, and then there's one draft where you got 2 guys, because there's just this gap in the talent and whatever. But to have zero, and not only zero, but to have zero for like the third time in the last however many years.
Well, it's a second. 14 was another one, and prior to that, it was in the 30s.
Okay, so
not
twice.
the 2030s, because we're not there yet. The 1930s, it happened twice. It was 80-something years that they had it back. Yeah.
So twice in the last decade. Not as bad. I thought it was 3 times for some reason, but twice. I mean, that's still, though, like to have nobody, that's kind of alarming. So, yeah, I think that they know what the deal is, and I think that it's no secret at this point. I think maybe for a while you kicked that culture can down the road and thought, no, it's not that. It can't be that. It can't be the development. But then you start to look around and like you realize it's not the head coach. It's not the position coaches. It's not the funding. It's not that. The only thing it can be is the development. And, to be fair, some of that is disrupted. Again, Sarkisian's been on the job for 1 year now. So, they had to deal with change. But, did anybody deal with more change than all the Baylor guys drafted this weekend?
Nope.
I mean, not even close.
3 coaches. Most of them had 3 coaches in their career.
Riley Tejada had like 5 different position coaches over his 6 years. So, I mean, they dealt with change as much as anybody, and that was not, anything that prohibited them from getting there. So, yeah, like that's an area that Texas needs to get better at, especially in the SEC. And if they can, then they'll be off to the races, and that will help tremendously. And Worthy and Robinson and those guys should ensure that. But as far as the depth goes beyond that, that's where the development will really come in.
Some of the names for next year, and this is what, this is kind of like a team wins a national title, and the next day there's the way too soon preseason top 25.
I saw a 2023 mock draft on Saturday night, like 10 minutes after the draft ended. I was like, wait a second, come on.
I cannot pronounce some of these names, and I'll be honest with you, but Bryce Young, quarterback at Alabama, C.J. Stroud, Ohio State, Bijan Robinson at Texas, Jason Smith and Jigba at Ohio State.
Jackson,
excuse me. Michael Meyer, Notre Dame tight end, but they always have tight ends about every other year. Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle from Northwestern.
Olusegun Oluwatimi.
Senior interior offensive lineman from Michigan. Jalen Carter, Georgia defensive lineman, yet they got more coming. Will Anderson. God, you hear so many things and remember his stud.
If Will Anderson isn't a top 5 pick, I'm going to be
from Alabama.
Shocked. Yeah.
Jack Campbell from Iowa. Linebacker, Cam Smith, sophomore from South Carolina. Redshirt sophomore, cornerback, and Jordan Battle, safety from Alabama. There are others down the road, including Xavier Worthy would be 24 or 25 among some of the other names. That's pretty much the local guy among the schools. And then people grow. I mean, there's the Caleb Williams in a couple of years. What's he going to be among with others? Braylon Allen, the running back at Wisconsin, in a couple of years as well.
You never know.
Those are some of the names.
You never know what can happen. I mean, Spencer Rattler was supposed to be a first-round pick this year, basically, right? I mean, that's kind of what the thought process was that he was just going to be at Oklahoma, win a bunch, and then be gone. And, he's at South Carolina now and really kind of with a prove-it year in front of him, even though the talent, obviously, the arm strength and things like that are just God-given and, partially worked on as well. But as far as playing goes and making good decisions and things like that, I do think he has a bit to prove and probably has a very good landing spot there with familiarity with Beamer at South Carolina. But, yeah, you just don't ever know how it's going to shake out and who emerges between now and then, because certainly some of those names you can almost lock in most likely, but there's going to be a bunch of other dudes. And there will be some of those guys probably that fall off the radar or slip as far as the thinking process goes for their draft stock.
Yeah, and so there's next year and possibly a name or 2 or 3 after that. Let's come back. What we'll do, we're going to show you 20 names who will be inducted and honored on May the 18th at McLean Stadium at the Baylor Club, the elite 20 student athletes in Greater Central Texas. And then later on, we'll also have Xavier Newman Johnson, the former Baylor offensive lineman who was picked up by Tennessee.
Yeah, I know that we don't we're not going to do a full rundown of every single draft pick, but how about Brock Purdy being Mr. Irrelevant?
Yeah.
The final pick of the draft. I was wondering when he was going to get drafted or not, but that was kind of funny to see them end the entire event with Brock Purdy going, so good for him to the 49ers, and Iowa State had a few selections, so that was just kind of a Big 12 way to end things.
I'll have a couple of notes later in the show. Baylor men's basketball coach Scott Drew with some signings of his new book, a couple of different times over the next week as well. And how about Nikki Collin with Asia Blackwell, the young lady from Missouri, a transfer that was announced late Friday, I think it was, as they had themselves a heck of a week, as Scott Drew did in the men's team the week before. Plus, then had all the Baylor football players who were picked up, drafted, and or signed. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Come by, let's be friends. That's their slogan. And right now their lot has what you want, which is cars, inventory, vehicles. Not everybody can because it's hard. It's difficult. Look, drive by some of the lots anywhere around the country, and sometimes they're kind of barren, and that's unfortunate because of the distribution issues. Alan Samuels right now, new car and also truck inventory available for you. The 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab. Total value is up to $6,500, or get $3,000 in bonus cash or 2.9% financing for 72 months. And a new month, there will be new discounts, new opportunities, and new opportunities for you to drive away in something you love, whether pre-owned or brand new. Tell the staff, tell them Smokey sent you. Tell Ted Teague I said hi. He's the general manager. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience, where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675, or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
2 weeks from Wednesday at the Baylor Club, McLean Stadium, Sikkim 365 will host an academic all-stars banquet honoring 20 student athletes. We've been doing this for me back since the early 1990s and the last 12 years here in Central Texas. And what this is there's like 85 schools. We send packets, nomination packets. We want the best boy and girl, male or female, when it comes to student athlete. Not everybody has to be all state. Not everybody has to be valedictorian, but there's some criteria. And one of them is you have to have a 95 or better GPA. Senior student athletes involved in everything. Could be one sport or five. Could be a Class 6A school, 1A school, or it could be a 6A school. And then also, by the way, a lot of community events, charitable events, and much more as well. Here is the list of the 2021 or 2021-22 Academic All-Stars Banquet, the stars. Brianna Benitez from Iredell High School. Kyron Dietrich from Riesel High School.
Looks like Kyson.
Kyson, excuse me. Kendall Dollar, she is from Belton High School with 114 grade point average. And she's headed to the University of Texas. Nathan Evans from Yo. Colby Hand from China Spring. Riley Hood from Franklin. Megan Casera from Lorena. There's two schools who have two winners this year. We usually don't do that, but both of them, and Lorena and Crawford both have two. Garrett Quast from Axtell. Allie Mack, she has offers to run track and field at the University of Houston and Auburn. Allie Mack from Temple. Francisco Montoya, he's a defensive back pickoff interception machine for Hillsboro. He's on the list. To the right side, Lexi Moody from Crawford. Gracie Mosley from Troy. Caitlin Noors, Abbott. Griffin Phillips from Clifton. Caden Powell's going to play basketball at Wyoming from Midway. Gabriella Cerna from Hubbard. Mason Strouch, Lorena. He's going to U.S. Military Academy. Courtney Weathern from Vanguard. Ty Williams from Crawford and Kurt Zolke from West, part of the Trojans athletic department, also West High School as well. So those are the 20 names of student athletes who will honor on Wednesday, May the 18th. I had text messages to every one of them last night, sent out the packets earlier today, and of course we'll start to get back the information. The Sunday before, May the 15th, there'll be a full-page ad, thanks to Ted Teague and Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, honoring all 20 of the Academic All-Stars. Our guest speaker, Dr. Robert Riza, who's been in education and coaching as well, young man. When he was a young man, lost his leg in a bicycle accident and has had an incredibly successful year. A guest speaker, he'll be the one that talks to our student athletes on May 18th at the Baylor Club. So those are the 20 schools. You may go, hey, we didn't get the packet. I check every single school, every single year, every single address, and we send out 85, I think it is, packets to schools, and they have until the end of March to send everything back. So that's it. Thanks to Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, our title sponsor. Thanks especially as well to Westdale Real Estate Management and Joe Beard and Rhonda Baird, because they're a part of it as well, along with so many other sponsors who help us put on that program. It's 4:25. When we come back, a couple of other nuggets. Xavier Newman Johnson will join us at the end of the hour, here this 4 o'clock hour, to check in on what's it like to be non-drafted, waiting for that call. How quickly does it come?
before you're a part of an NFL team like he is with the Tennessee Titans. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Carr. And, of course, they are the people that you can count on for over 23 years in Central Texas. So there's been supply chain issues across the country in terms of getting new cars and trucks, and that hasn't ceased completely. There's still a little bit of an issue there, but Richard Carr is trying to work its way around that as best they can by getting that inbound vehicle list going. And basically what that means is if you're in the market for a new car or truck, you call Richard Carr, you tell them what you're looking for, you tell them that you want to get it, and they will sign you up on their inbound vehicle list so that as soon as that car or truck becomes available, you will be first in line to grab it as quickly as possible. New cars and trucks, they're arriving weekly, but again, it's kind of a process. So if you're looking, get your name on that inbound vehicle list, go by the dealership and do so in person, give them a call, or even go on to richardcar.com to see their current inventory and get that set up. If you need a car today, however, you're not looking to buy new, you're just looking to get into a vehicle, well, they have plenty of pre-owned vehicles as well, both cars, trucks, and SUVs. All their pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, and they will pay top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. They will say yes when others say no. And again, 23 years in the automotive business for Richard Carr. I've experienced their dealership personally in terms of getting my car fixed up after a couple of dings, and it was a smooth process. Was in and out in less than a day, and just a big thank you once again to all the people over there, and actually got to get a dent taken out in about 2 weeks, so I'll be seeing them very soon, and I know that it will not be an issue and that it will be taken care of promptly and easily because, again, customer service is their thing over at Richard Carr. They're loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. They've also got the inbound vehicle list for new cars, trucks, and SUVs as well, so give them a call, go by the dealership, or go online to richardcar.com today. Trust the good local people you can count on for over 23 years. Call now. Go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
431, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Thank you, all of you. I've not been on the chat room in the last couple of minutes, so we can get into that with you as well. Anything else that's been added from A Musical Psychosis, just turning in at the beginning. Gotta love the symbolism of the cookie cake. Yeah, it's my birthday. We appreciate that. Thanks for the chat room as well. From Juan M., I do think draft count for the new 4 entering the Big 12 will increase significantly once we're all in the Big 12, which could mean better talent. And, of course, you still have to develop it, which some of those schools are doing right now anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati led the way, obviously, coming off a historic year. That was to be expected somewhat. But, they should still be putting guys in on a regular basis. I just don't know that it's going to be 9 all that often because that's just hard for anybody to reach that year in and year out unless you're Bama or Georgia, basically. But, hey, if they can stabilize it at that high of a number, that would be incredible. But regardless, they'll keep putting guys into the pros. And then, UCF – straggling a little bit. They had a late-round pick, but not much besides that. BYU had a later pick, not much besides that. And then Houston did very well for themselves. I mean, they had a bunch of picks. So, 2 of the 4 really represented this weekend. And that's why, you could take Oklahoma's, I think they ended up with 7 or 8. You can eliminate them, and Cincinnati makes up for it, and doesn't cost you anything. And then Texas obviously had 0, so the 3 other schools all at least had 1, and in Houston's case they had multiple. So yeah, it turned out, and you are counting 2 extra teams, but the original Big 12's number would be real high, or would be a lot higher if Texas just had 2 or 3 guys, or if K-State had a couple extra guys or whatever. So everybody's got to pull their weight, but certainly Cincinnati and Houston are doing that already, and hopefully will continue to. And then as Malzahn sinks his claws into Central Florida, and of course Sataki at BYU get that Big 12 bump as well. Hopefully that does translate. But then again, it's what's weird about draft totals. I was thinking about this over the weekend. Jamison Williams gets drafted. He played 1 year at Alabama. This whole thing with Jordan Addison, he's not going to count as a Pitt draft pick.
But he won the
Biletnikoff there, and he played 3 years there. But he's not going to count as a Pitt draft pick. So that will be like USC's 400th top 10 pick when. Well, and that's what's kind of wonky about it is that there's a lot of stats and a lot of draft numbers and a lot of things like that are going to totally they'll be real, I guess. But there's going to be like a caveat with a lot of it. You know what I mean?
I do think you have to look at case-by-case basis. Get just 2 first-rounders. Jamison Williams and Jermaine Johnson were big-time transfers. Jermaine Johnson only played 1 year at FSU, but would he have been a first-round draft pick at Georgia? No, because he would have been blocked there, which is why he transferred. Jamison Williams was one of the best wide receivers in the country, and he was blocked at Ohio State because they had Olave and Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson. 2 of those 3 got, one of them is going to be a first-round draft pick in 2023, and the other 2 were in the top 12. So, he was blocked there. So it worked out for him.
Yeah, and listen, we talk. UT's had a couple of. We know that they've been in a funk. They know they've been in a funk, and sometimes maybe they've had their head in the sand. Back in I think it was in 1982, 83, or 84. They had 16 or 17 guys drafted. The draft was longer, but they have put tons of them in. But you see the drop off of late. 16, they had a 4th round pick. 17, they had 1 pick. 2018, they had 5. 19, 2. 23, 21, 5. And then this year, of course, nothing. And so back in 2014 was the year that they didn't have anybody. But they put in – but Tony Altimore, who's on the text line with us, Tony is saying, hey, a lot of these people who are saying this and that about USC or Miami, these are T-shirt fans. Most of the fan bases you hear about, I would think that's the case. Now, there's alums, I get that. But a lot of times we do understand that the T-shirt fans that are just saying this and that.
Well,
the other thing
especially Miami, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's not a big school, big public school to begin with. That is a small private school that really, if not for like the 80s run, you wouldn't even probably be thinking about them, quite frankly. But that just turned into such a massive thing, back then and has remained that way. But yeah, I mean, look, I don't put a lot of stock into every tweet I read or where it's coming from, and a lot of it's just kind of BS or whatever. But yeah, regardless of who it is, I mean, there are two fan bases, and T-shirt fans or not, that seem to be all aboard, surprisingly so, given that they're so involved. And it's Miami fans and it's USC fans, and I saw too, and this is like the bottom rung of fan intelligence, but if you really just want to believe something, you can convince yourself of anything. So I saw a Miami fan in particular who's convinced himself that everybody's just mad at USC and Miami for this NIL disruption because they're scared of USC and Miami being back. And it's like, okay, dude, like I'm not even going to attempt to argue with you. Nobody cares if they're back or not, except for, the selective fan bases. If USC's great again, great. If Miami's great again, great. If we could change things up a little bit and it's not Georgia, Bama every year, that would be great. But, there is room for criticism in the way that it's being done. Because if it's being done by just going and plucking a Blitnikoff Award winner away for $2 million, then, I'm not going to give too much credit for that. I'm going to give more credit to the people that recruited them originally and developed them along the way and should get the benefit from it. And Pitt did. They got the great year last year. They got a first-round quarterback. Jordan Addison won on the Blitnikoff. They got a ton of attention. But it does suck that he could just fly away to LA overnight and it's great for him, but it's going to make draft totals and things like that, again, need an asterisk next to them somewhat.
Of the 11 players that were drafted or signed after the draft from Baylor, Estrada came from the Ivy League.
He's a graduate transfer.
Graduate. Off the top of my head, of the other 10, how many of them were transfers?
None of them.
None of them were. Yeah, that's Baylor's.
That's homegrown talent. Now, Siaka Ika,
Josh White,
Jackson Player.
Next year there could be several. I don't know. We don't know that. But
this is going to be
that's a pretty unique class.
When we look back at this era, this little group of Baylor players is going to be pretty unique that it's so devoid of transfers, and the one was a grad transfer from the Ivy League. But back to the T-shirt fan point. Miami and USC have a lot of T-shirt fans because they are in the markets that they're in. In Miami and LA, they're pro sports markets. When the college team is good, it's the city's team, and so that's kind of that wouldn't happen in Dallas, for example, because if SMU won the national title, which, I mean, I know they're long, it's near impossible for them to do, but if SMU won the national title, they would not really be the city's team because the city is made up of so many people from other, alumni bases in Texas because of the gigantic schools that they have. Miami, though, is and LA are like that, and it's just kind of the city's team. If you grew up in Miami, if you grew up in LA, that's the city's team. And so you have a lot of T-shirt fans, and then you have people who, maybe went to, like Tony said, Nova Southeastern or something. Well, they can't throw their money around for football at Nova Southeastern, so they're going to at Miami because it's the city's team, is where they grew up, and that people like to be seen in those places. And it's dangerous for people who like to be seen and don't really care what the overall consequences of the way they're doing things are. Not that NIL is bad, but the way it's happening is not the way it should be happening.
Whoever that is it John Ruiz, when he walks into maybe a place at night now in downtown Miami or whatever it is, he has a little bit more swagger to him and also some attention.
Oh, this is totally an ego stroke thing. That's totally what most of this is for some of these boosters. They're just happy that they can actually have their names known. I don't even want to talk about him by his name, quite frankly. He's just life wallet guy to me at this point. And that's, I'm sure he may be a great guy. Not going to judge him from, 1,000 feet above, but I think it's fair to say that he probably loves the attention based on how often we've suddenly seen this man on Twitter and the NIL stuff. And yeah, boosters used to be able to take credit behind the scenes for the $100 handshakes and all that, but now they can just do it basically out in the open. And I don't like that part of it. And I hope that it doesn't turn into a multiplication of Life Wallet guy. I hope that we don't suddenly start to get to know, boosters by name and things like that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I have no interest in that. I have no interest in that element of the game. I think NIL is fascinating. I think it's definitely made college football have more of a year-round type of schedule, sort of like the NFL in a way. Do think, though, that the NFL does have rules when things can happen and when they can't happen and how they can happen, and college football has none of that, which, again, I think is the basis of the argument when it comes to NIL for everybody that's saying anything negative about it. Is not the money, and it's not even the transfer thing so much. It's just the basic lack of any rules whatsoever, to where you can just go poach a Biletnikoff winner, making a phone call through a booster behind the scenes, we didn't do anything. The school had nothing to do with it, which we know is BS. And then, pluck them away. It's great for the players, and it's, I guess, great for Lincoln Riley to an extent, but there's just a part about it that, I just think it needs a little cleaning up.
One of the things on the message board, and I'm going to read part of it, and again, this is also what Markel has said on the chat room, and I also caution how much of it is actually true, because sometimes things in smoke on message boards can be a little bit far-fetched, and sometimes, man, people are attached. They're in. I mean, I can tell you right now, Sikkim 365, they have some amazing people who know business of what's going on. Rumors on Texas boards that USC tried to poach Xavier Worthy, offering $800,000 plus incentives. Texas apparently exceeded that offer from USC. Again, this is message board, and I don't like to do that much, but I think this is interesting because we've seen it from other places. Supposedly, Oregon is trying to approach Jahdae Barron, defensive back for them, for $200,000. For one, this is hilarious that happening to Texas, because you thought of it as the other way around. Secondly, is this just getting completely out of hand? And as Markel said, when the big brands start to have players poached, that's all of a sudden they go, wait, whoa. We're the ones that are supposed to get the dudes. We don't want others coming after our dudes. That seems to me to be kind of, 50-50, whatever's legitimate with those particular discussion or those particular comments right there, but we appreciate it.
I think there will be a balancing point to all of it, because once Texas gets two guys poached and then goes poaches two guys and all that, it'll just be like anything else. I mean, right now, what is happening because of the influx of money and the availability of it at the larger places is that a guy can be going to Pitt, which is a plenty big school, I'm sure, with a lot of rich alumni, but not as many rich alumni or businesses attached to it like USC is. So those deals can happen quicker because you can pluck up a little bit.
He lost his offensive coordinator. He lost his quarterback. And, some other guy, that's now part of, good things happen. His offensive coordinator's at Nebraska because they've been terrible. And he was good at what he did. And Pickett's drafted because he was really good. And in the Heisman conversation for a while. And all of a sudden, now you have guys who are pretty good. And you look around and go, man, we got a lot of guys that are pretty good, but we have some good guys coming back. And now they're going to wonder if we can still help them be successful. It is nuts. Sam Carroll, once a Baylor commit, went to Washington State. He was committed to Baylor, then all of a sudden with the new staff, it just didn't work out. He went to Washington State. He is now a preferred walk-on candidate at Texas Tech. That story, I got that from his father from earlier today. So true, next the boosters will be called agents, which for me is toxic. Go play some damn football. Shut up, because the smart kid athletes will keep that private. And that's thanks from the 360. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I just think it's invited a lot of people who otherwise we just wouldn't know exist or wouldn't have existed otherwise, that are now, coming front and center. Like when big money starts to get involved, and now the big money is not so much tucked away in secret vaults available only to the schools. Now that it's just kind of free reign, there are some, I think, undesirable people that are going to emerge out of this, very agent-like types of people. And we saw with his name's escaping me, with the Miami basketball player. He was referring to when he made his announcement that he and LifeWallet had talked and sorted everything out. Oh, from now on, I'm going to be the one speaking for me. Well, it's like, who was speaking for you to begin with? An agent? As a college, I don't know. That's just wild to me. That was funny to watch that go from threat to, oh, no, you guys misunderstood. That was somebody else saying. And it's like, oh, no, I think what happened was you probably got a phone call saying, this is dangerous territory as far as NCAA rules and whatnot. And they cleaned it up as quickly as they can. And that's what USC or Miami or anybody else can do. It'd be like, oh, well, the coaches didn't involved. It was the school wasn't involved. It was outside factors. Well, that's the outside factors are where it can get pretty shady. And I just hope that there's some element of structure so that a Jordan Addison can go and make $2 million at a USC, but hopefully it's done in a professional standard, right way, and not shady business dealings a la like the Barry Switzer years of college football. That's just not necessary at this point, but it seems like there's even more of it now because there is less enforcement.
When we come back, Xavier Newman-Johnson, former Baylor offensive lineman, picked up by the Tennessee Titans. His story about how hard was it, the anxiety or the weight, and where he is now compared to even a year ago. Now a part of the Tennessee Titans, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. I had a bone-in ribeye last night. It was delicious. And that's where I get my steaks. In fact, went by there today to pick up even more. Big, thick, what I call Alpha Dog, thick bone-in ribeyes. And on top of that, the fillets, bacon-wrapped fillets as well. They have a hometown grocery store mentality, and also that's the atmosphere you have there. Plus, along with that, there's a butcher shop and a bakery as well. Brian Bauer, the owner, does a great job. Full-time bakery with all sorts of fresh-baked bread and kolaches and whatever you want with the butcher shop, whether it's beef, also pork, poultry, and seafood, they have that as well. It's Waco Custom Marketplace. Live crawfish, 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. You can order by Wednesday at 6, pick up anytime after Friday at 4 at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Earlier today, Terrell Bernard, 11 former Baylor football players are now a part of the NFL in their next journey in life, and one of them, Xavier Newman-Johnson, former Baylor offensive lineman, part of the Tennessee Titans, joins us. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak on 365 Sports. Xavier, can you try to explain the emotions of that weekend you just came off of?
Man, you know, the emotions of it was high, man. You know, the dream come true for me. Just having the opportunity to sign with the team, especially a team that, you know, showed a lot of interest in me throughout the draft process. So that was a very, very grateful moment for me.
Xavier, what is the process like when when teams are calling you and you've got to sign a free agent deal, everything that happened? What was that like? Was it kind of fast and furious? What were you doing?
Yeah, you know, it has the point where it's fast and people are calling and constantly texting. Then it gets to a point where it slows down, you know, when everybody's doing their thing and figuring out who they really want to look at and stuff. So, I mean, it's really just making sure you stay on top of your stuff, stay on top of your body, your eating, how you hydrate, and make sure you stay on top of your things.
So, Xavier, how long did you have to wait before you got that phone call?
Well, I was already talking to a few teams before the draft was over. And me and my agents, we narrowed it down to, you know, the few teams that we thought would fit me best and I had the best opportunity. And, you know, we felt like the Titans were that team. So we got that deal done pretty quick, you know, on both ends.
I can't imagine, though. How much is there anxiety? Are you nervousness? And then, of course, the thrill of victory because of what you had. Is there kind of an anxiety thing? Did you do something to just get away from your phone for a little bit, or were you nervous not to be able to do that?
Oh, no, man. Yeah, I wasn't sitting in front of the TV the whole time. I wasn't on my phone the whole time. I, you know, played dominoes with my family. We played ping pong and cornhole and just got away and talked, you know, to people that were there to support me. So I had a few things I was able to do to get my mind off of it.
So, Xavier, Jalen Petrie and Tyquan Thornton and Terrell Bernard and J.T. Woods and Treston Ebner and Kalen Barnes all get drafted. Yourself, Abram Smith, Raleigh Tejada, Jaron McVay, Drew Estrada, 11 guys from last year's team either drafted or signing undrafted free agent deals. Just how awesome is that to have that type of success and see all those guys getting landing spots?
Man, you know, I couldn't be more proud of those guys, man. You know, just the in and out of the days, we had conversations about everybody going to the NFL and making it. And to see everybody's dream come true this weekend was just a surreal moment for me, for myself, and for me seeing my teammates, you know, having their names called and celebrating for them and just texting them, congratulating them. So I think it was a pretty good moment for not only us as individuals, but, you know, the University of Baylor. I mean, I feel like it helps with recruiting. You know, recruits can see that and understand that you can go to Baylor and get drafted as high as you want. You know what I'm saying? And we had 2 guys going to second and 2 guys going to third. So I think that was pretty good for not just us as a group, but the school in general.
Now, you have a little bit of position flex, but do you feel more comfortable? Do you think you're going to play more guard than anything else when you go to camp?
I think I'll be back and forth at all 3, center, guard, and center and both guards.
You said who would be the best fit? Was that the best foot schematically because of what you were able to do and how much you played as well as you did under the wide zone?
I would say as far as scheme-wise, yes, and also just having the opportunity to make a 53-man roster as well.
So have you thought at all what it would be like to block for Derrick Henry yet?
No, I still haven't wrapped my head around that, but that would be a good opportunity.
I would say part of the reason that his offensive line is good in front of him is if you don't get out of the way, he's going to run into the back of you, and you don't want that.
Yeah, do not want that.
Do you know much about Nashville, Xavier? Have you been there before?
I've never been to Tennessee, but I've heard pretty good things about it over the last few days. As far as, just the people there, the food places, and just the city overall is a good place.
Yeah, I was there for the draft a couple years ago, and it's cool. It's got a nice little downtown strip area. The stadium's right there downtown. It's Paul was just there, actually.
No. Paul is married and has or almost to someone who's from Nashville.
Yeah.
So I'm required to tell you that Nashville is the greatest thing that's ever happened in the universe. But it's a great place. You'll love it. Yeah, I've been all over it. Yeah, it's awesome.
So Xavier, how did you celebrate once the dust kind of settled? Were you able to catch your breath at all and just kind of let it sink in, a moment to yourself or just a moment with family? How'd you kind of let it all sink in, so to speak?
Yeah, to let it sink in, me and my family, we went out to eat yesterday, just sitting down, talking to them, and it finally hitting me was a big thing. So I would say that was good. Just the overall weekend, just being around my family and people that supported me from the beginning, and having that dinner with them yesterday was really the thing that I needed.
That's awesome. You have grown up, and what you've done with Eric Mateos and the new coaching staff, but others along the way that have been a part of you as well. How many coaches, text messages did you get once the news came out you signed?
Man, I got a lot. I'm still texting people back now. I'm texting and calling people back and just, thanking people and appreciating people for helping me along the way.
I know that he mentioned you had a lot of different coaches over the years, but what was it about this past season with Eric Mateos, do you think, that just made it such a success, such a great partnership? And I think we'd all agree, I think you would agree that, you probably after, the last couple of years maybe have gone undrafted and signed with somebody, but you really did boost your stock this year and had a strong season. Why was that in your mind, and how much of that relationship with Eric Mateos played into that?
Man, Coach Mateos is a great guy. He came in and, everybody knows we weren't the best group. And he came in with a clean slate. He wasn't judging us. He wasn't looking back on how we were in the past. He came in with fresh eyes, and he just expressed that to us. He showed us, that we could be great, talked to us and told us we could be great. It just comes down to us putting in that work. And, being a player, having a coach that's confident in you and a coach that's willing to stand by you is a main thing that you like. And he came in and he did that for us, and he built that relationship with us. And, who wouldn't want to play for a coach like Eric Mateos?
Hey, Xavier, this is not meant to say anything about somebody who was there prior to Coach Mateos. Do you think you would be in this position today if he had not shown up at Baylor?
Yes, I think I would be. I think I would still have a shot at a team. Probably. I don't know how it would have went as far as everything, but I think I still would have been able to get a shot.
Big 12 champs, Sugar Bowl champs, and now a record number of draft picks. What kind of legacy do you think you and a lot of the fellas have left after the last 4 or 5 years?
Man, I think we really left a mark here on Baylor. And not only just from the accolades that we have got as a group, but just the ups and downs that we went through, you know, coming in, going 1-11, then going to the Texas Bowl, going to the Big 12 and the Sugar Bowl, losing, then losing our coach, and basically having to restart over again. And, you know, I think it just goes to show how we can handle adversity and how we're able to adapt as a group and stick it out. You know, a lot of guys could have left. A lot of guys could have transferred, could have declared. But at the end of the day, we all stepped up and we stuck it out, and we believed in Coach Aranda like he believed in us, and it paid off for us this last year.
It's a great story, Xavier. We talked to you after the game in Vegas. We've watched this offseason and also followed you during your career at Baylor. So proud of you, man. And we're not done with you. Hey, don't block my number because we're going to get you on again here and watch what you do with Tennessee and also throughout whatever happens with you in the NFL, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Xavier Newman-Johnson. What a great story. And now the offensive line, those who came back, and how many of them could be someone who has their name?
Connor Galvin.
Galvin.
For sure.
Gall.
Somebody that you can look at. I think when you start to look at potential draft picks next year, Galvin would have to be one of them. And I don't know exactly on Gall, Grant Miller, and
Khalil Keith
as far as like how they would be viewed. I know Keith, especially with his size, would probably be viewed pretty well. But I would have to imagine that, you know, if they perform the way they performed last year and churn out a bunch of yards and, you know, win a bunch of games, and I think all four of those guys will have opportunities. But, yeah, I think Galvin and maybe even Keith are the ones you look at and you go, okay, those guys could be some pretty good draft picks.
Hey, Ted Joe 10, Coach Ted Joe, watching from Douala, I think that's how you say it, in Cameroon.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you very much for being a part of our chat room.
I don't have a map for that.
It's in Africa.
I know. I only got the United States.
Thank
I don't
you.
have.
We got to come back. We're going to have a Hall of Fame broadcaster, Rangers voice of the Rangers, Eric Nadel. He's going to be among the 8 inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame Media Hall of Fame. He's next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco, a hidden gem. And look, if you are looking for craft beer or the best locally sourced whiskeys, TX, Garrison Brothers, Devil's River, and of course Balcones, they've got them there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. A speed drive-through window, great customer service. The craft beers, look, it's May. It's trying to get out spring into summertime. So some of those summer beers are coming in out of the spring. Oh, man, some great stuff that they're going to have at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details.
Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming savings event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, you're home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2 outs. 6-1, the Rangers lead in the top of the 9th. Believes the high set. Here comes the pitch. Breaking ball, strike 3 call! The Rangers are going to the World Series!
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
That highlight, Eric Nadel, voice of the Rangers, headed to the World Series, something I never thought of when I was a fan back when they first arrived at Arlington in 1972, and prior to that as a Washington Senators fan. Eric, thanks for your time, and you have been a part of so many memorable moments in baseball throughout the time you've been the broadcaster you are. But how about this? I know you're part of the Baseball Hall of Fame, but what about the Texas Sports Hall of Fame coming up May 21st? When you got that call, what did that mean to you?
I was really excited. You know, Texas has been so good to me, and for me to be going in, you know, with people like Brad Sham and Randy Galloway, you know, who not only are close friends of mine, but who were kind of mentors to me when I first came to Dallas. It's a tremendous honor.
What's the best piece of advice you got from either of them?
Well, Galloway really taught me how to behave on the road. I guess that's the right way to put it. He kind of took me under his wing, and the most important thing he taught me was that sleep is underrated.
Nothing about that shock.
I believe all of that. Yes,
that is. You got to get your sleep, but it's a question of when. And so Gallo was pretty good about that. You know, we would go out back then. And, you know, we were like 30 years old back then. And we would go out and, you know, we would have a good time after the games. But he always would wake up early to run. And he would call my room and make sure that I would go out and run with him. And then there was usually time for a nap before we actually had to go to work. But that was really important. You know, with Brad, I wound up working with Brad. For 3 years, you know, when he and Barry Switzer weren't getting along, and Brad didn't do the Cowboys for 3 years. And that was just a great relationship, just to see how Brad worked, how he prepared, how he related to players was something that I think I got a lot out of. And, you know, they're both, you know, so good at what they did. And to see Randy go from being, you know, a beat writer to a columnist and, you know, an award-winning talk show host, that was really fun for me. And Brad, of course, is so versatile. You know, he's done a million different sports where, you know, I've basically done nothing but baseball for 42 years now out of the 44 that I've been doing this job.
Was hockey how you started, or was hockey how you got your name out there?
Hockey was how I started, and that was really my goal. You know, as a kid growing up in New York, I was fascinated with Marv Albert, who was doing the New York Ranger games back then. And, you know, I would get my homework done every day the Rangers were playing so I could listen to Marv do the games. The games weren't on TV then. Marv would just do the home games, and they were just on the radio. The road games were on TV, and he didn't do those. He would stay home. He had quite a gig. He did the Knicks home games and the Rangers home games. So all he had to do was go to Madison Square Garden every night. But I would get my homework done in time to hear him do those Ranger games. And when people would ask me what I was going to do when I grow up, I would tell them, hey, I'm going to be the voice of the Rangers. And I was right. I just wasn't specific enough.
You got the Rangers right, but not the sport. But and you've been around for, you mentioned, 40 years or so doing baseball. And now you've got a young team, a new team, although they've got the new free agents that they signed, and it's been kind of a rocky start. Your thoughts about where they are right now?
Yeah, certainly not where we would want them to be. You know, at this point in the season, 8-14, could always be worse considering, you know, how bad the pitching was for the first 2 weeks of the season. But now I'm getting optimistic because for the last 10 days, the Rangers have pitched well. And if they can pitch well, they're going to be okay because they're going to score runs. You know, offenses will always have their ups and downs. But there were so many question marks on the pitching staff coming into the season. You know, one of the keys being Dane Dunning, who has really blossomed, you know, in his last few starts. You know, he, along with John Gray and Martin Perez, would give the Rangers, you know, three pretty solid guys at the top of the rotation, assuming that, you know, John Gray can stay healthy. He's only made 2 starts so far.
Were you surprised about Willie Calhoun?
I was surprised we got to this point with Willie. You know, I certainly didn't expect him to be hitting 130 at this point in the season. Given where the club is now, though, I wasn't surprised that he was the guy optioned out, you know, when it came time to trim the roster down to 26.
Eric, the Rangers franchise, the new stadium, you've seen now Arlington Stadium, the ballpark in Arlington, which of course became Globe Life Park, and now what you have now. How much difference is the new one as far as your broadcast, where you are compared to the old one?
Well, it's gotten worse in each park for us in terms of the location, and that's, you know, that's just the way it is right now. The economics of baseball kind of dictate that we no longer get those super prime low broadcast locations like we used to. You know, they're selling luxury suites there, and I understand, you know, the club's got to make money. So we're higher than we were at the old park, and that was higher than we were at the original park. And, you know, it's interesting. The first park was out on I-30. The second one was south of that, and the new one is south of that. I think the Rangers are eventually trying to move to Waco. They're just doing it really slowly.
In due time, man, in due time. Have you seen the Nolan Ryan documentary debut, the premiere?
I haven't seen it. You know, they showed it at the ballpark yesterday after the game, but we left right after the game to go to Philadelphia, where I am now. So I haven't seen it. You know, I was interviewed for the movie along with seemingly hundreds of other people, and I haven't seen it. I was told that I am in the movie briefly. I didn't know if I'd be left on the cutting room floor. I kind of expected I would be, but somebody said they saw the movie and that I was in it briefly.
Do you have a favorite Nolan moment personally? I mean, there were a lot of them. I'm sure going to the ballpark just to call a game that he was pitching made it at least that much more exciting that day.
Yeah, every day was special when Nolan pitched, but, you know, my number one Nolan story is I interviewed Randy Johnson one day, a pregame show, and he clearly didn't want to do it. I don't know why he said yes. He kind of rolled his eyes when I asked him, and, you know, he agreed to do it. And every question I asked him, he kind of answered with an attitude like, boy, that's a stupid question, but I'm going to answer it. And when the show was airing, apparently Nolan was listening to it in the clubhouse. And when I took the commercial break in the middle of the show, the phone rang in the broadcast booth. And the engineer answered it, and Nolan said, "Yeah, this is Nolan. Let me talk to Eric." And I got on, And I said, "Hey, Nolan, what's up?" He said, "I just got one question for you. What did you do to tick old Randy off?" He said, "I'm really enjoying this. I can't wait to hear the second half." And he hung up the phone.
You know what I thought you were going to say? That he, as a veteran, knowing you as well, was going to call and then say, "Let me talk to Randy and get Randy to loosen the hell up."
Yeah, I wish he had done that. You know, he did give Randy a couple of tips on pitching that apparently were very helpful to him. But yeah, he delighted in the way I was no doubt squirming doing that interview.
Eric, I was, remember when you, I guess years and years ago, began to learn Spanish, and there was the whole Juan Gonzalez reasoning behind that of just being able, with so many Latin American Spanish-speaking players in the league, wanted to be able to converse more. I was curious, though, what was the, I guess, best teaching tool for you? For if you had advice for somebody trying to learn a second language, I guess speaking to native speakers would be one area. Was that most of it for you, or how did you kind of learn?
Yeah, that's how you take the big jump, by going into total immersion, traveling for me in Latin America. I actually went to language school in Venezuela for a couple of weeks and, spoke nothing but Spanish for 2 weeks. But you have to get to a point of some competence before you do that. You can go as a beginner to one of those language schools. But I think the most important thing is to go to another country once you get some sort of a working knowledge of the language. To get started, programs like people are using now, Rosetta Stone and things like that, are good. But I think it's really important to have a teacher who can correct your pronunciation and to be able to listen to somebody who's speaking, in a native tongue. Like I had a teacher who was Puerto Rican, which is very similar to the Spanish that the Dominicans and the Cubans and the Venezuelans are speaking, so it would help me in baseball. Because so many people I hear, get a kind of a beginning command of the language in terms of understanding the words and having some vocabulary and some grammar, but they don't sound right. Their pronunciation is off. And if you have a teacher working with you right from the start, you have a much better chance. Especially if you have some kind of an American regional accent. Like I had a New York accent. People in Texas, it's really helpful if you have, a personal teacher, if you can afford it, or take some group classes where you're actually in person, and talking back and forth to the teacher.
How much did the players appreciate you doing that?
They love it. The guys from Latin America, I think it really gives me an advantage in gaining some trust with them. Also, the fact that I've now been to all of their countries and can talk about that, I think is really important. There are players who don't really have the patience because I have to make them slow down if I'm going to understand them. And I'm sure I'm making grammatical errors, and my pronunciation's pretty good, but I'm sure it's not perfect. But they really do appreciate your trying.
One of the other names inducted is the late Frank Lieber. He, of course, one of the great names in Dallas. You mentioned Brad Sham and Randy Galloway. You got a Frank Lieber story?
Great one, because Frank was doing the games my first year. Frank did some of the games on TV. He was doing a lot of national stuff for CBS. He's doing all the major golf tournaments and, the NCAA tournament and stuff like that. But when he was available on the weekends, he would do the Ranger games. And we did a game one day in Kansas City. And when we came on the air, I don't know how this happened, but instead of hearing ourselves in our headsets, we were hearing the Kansas City announcers in our headsets. And I'm like freaking out. It was maybe the fifth or sixth game I'd ever done. And, I'm just trying to survive. And meanwhile, Frank, he just shrugged his shoulders. He turned down the volume on his headset and just went on as if nothing had happened. He taught me so much about poise and calm and not getting rattled that, I was forever grateful to him.
All of us, no matter what market, no matter if you broadcast play-by-play, a talk show, whatever, there's always going to be times when the technical thing just goes south. I mean, it's part of life. And that's a great story because nobody who's listening understands what the hell's going on anyway, and the last thing you want to do is bring attention to it.
Yeah, exactly. They don't know. They don't know that we're hearing the other team's announcers. So just kind of go with the flow. And, it kind of taught me that, whatever is going wrong and stuff, as you say, stuff goes wrong a lot, or you don't like the the way it sounds in your headset. And, sometimes you'd have an echo or something weird like that to, just not let that bother you. Just go right ahead and, make it sound like there's nothing wrong.
We brought you on because of the induction on May 21st of Voice of the Rangers and Eric Nadel. You did win the Ford C. Frick Award back in 2014. I remember that moment. Had you ever been to, I can't imagine you hadn't been, but what was the first time you'd ever been to Cooperstown?
I used to go to summer camp up in the Catskill Mountains, and a certain age group would get taken to Cooperstown every year. And I got to go 2 years in a row, where we would see they called it the Hall of Fame game. There was actually an exhibition game played every summer between two big league teams. And I got to go see, those games twice. I think when I was 13 and 14, I got to go to Cooperstown, and, we had a little bit of time to go through the Hall of Fame and then watch that game at Doubleday Field. So I had been there a couple of times. And then the Rangers actually played in that game one year. When I was starting to do the Rangers. It was early in my Rangers career. So I think I'd been there 3 times already before the induction in 2014.
You've been a part of many Hall of Fames, and you'll be a part of another one. Eric, always appreciated your access and insight whenever I saw you, first of all, when I started covering training camps in Port Charlotte. And then, of course, throughout your career, proud of what you've done and what you represent. We appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you May 21st.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
That's Eric Nadel, Ford Frick Award winner, Rangers Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame, and now will be a part of the Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the Willie Calhoun stuff is just bizarre. Like, this has been a weird fit. I mean, they purchased a square to fit into a circle, and they've just kind of been dragging it on for, 3-4 years now?
Yeah, since they got, Yu Darvish, or traded Yu Darvish, and Yu Darvish has figured out what's going on with him, and it has blossomed in a couple places, and then here Willie Calhoun just hasn't fit.
Yeah, well, and they haven't really let him fit either.
Yeah.
Like, they've just kind of been herky-jerk with him. It's very strange how that's all unfolded. I don't know, it just feels like they haven't ever really been all in with him for whatever reason. But, yeah, I mean, he's going to be on his way out, obviously, and always good to hear Eric Nadel's voice. That's a lot of, anytime I hear his voice, that's my childhood right there. So always fun to talk to him. And I really was curious about the Spanish speaking because he's become, fluent. And I think it's awesome that he's taken the steps to learn the language and, did so out of, not his own self, improvement as much as it was for the guys who he's interviewing all the time. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Willie Calhoun was a part of the Yu Darvish trade.
Yeah.
Wasn't he one of the pieces they thought?
He was the big piece.
Yeah, he's the big piece. Oh, man, Willie Calhoun to make everything better. By the way, Eric and Matt Hicks and Jared Sandler have such a good
they do.
chemistry around them. I've just sat and listened to them, especially, Rangers that, they might be on, losing 9 out of 15 or 14 kind of games and, getting bludgeoned because they got a long road trip. They had, I've heard them talk about oatmeal in Cleveland or, just the things to do to make a broadcast pop, because it's, the baseball's a game where the broadcaster has to fill things in, and they're just so good at it, and he deserves to be in every Hall of Fame.
No, he's one of the best, no question. Jared Sandler, someone that we're his agents because he was a young kid that he's a former, I think, baseball player at USC, walk on or had a scholarship. Something that's a great story with that. We'll get Jared on here pretty soon as well. From Brandon, when he heard the story about Eric Nadel and the broadcast, and he's right, I'll never forget when Texas Stadium, when Jerry Jones and the Cowboys bought the Cowboys. Jerry Jones and company bought the Cowboys. And they just basically gutted some of the mid-level broadcast booths at what was the old Texas Stadium, where Jerry's businessman, luxury suites, all of that, and they moved the football broadcast booth way up tall. And then, of course, network still had a pretty good. And now at Cowboy Stadium, AT&T Stadium, Brad Sham and a lot of broadcasters, they're down behind the end zone in the corner, where sometimes you have to rely on that massive screen.
The TV booth
network is still good.
It's really good.
Really, really good. But it's just, and what Brandon was saying, everything in sports is corporate now. Pretty soon, we will see a park that's almost 100% luxury suites. It's very, very true. Eventually, you get kind of force people out.
Could we, before we do that, could we get a plane, a 747, 7, whatever it is, with just all first class, and then lower the price of the first class.
Yeah.
So there's no middle seats
because there's
anymore.
more. Yeah. Have you flown first class often?
Often? No. I mean, 4 or 5 times.
Craig, have you ever flown first class?
Like once or twice.
Yeah, it's a different animal. Now you got these things that look like they're luxury suites that you can sit in some of these airplanes as well. From Daniel, Eric Nadell, Mark Holtz were the voices of my childhood. Used to listen to them on WBAP 820 back in the day.
Okay. What if I did this? What if I invented an airline where first class was just one really big seat, and then coach was 2 regular first class
There's
seats?
nothing better. Sometimes you get lucky. You put in a claim for first class seat, and sometimes there's one available. You ask for it. It's like $50, and sometimes, of course, it could cost you tons and tons of money.
We got a little bit of breaking news. The NFL says they've reviewed or had conducted the independent review of Hugh Jackson's comments about the Browns tanking. And the NFL, which I know not everybody will believe them no matter what they say, but they have come out and announced the independent review into allegations by Hugh Jackson concludes that allegations could not be substantiated. So they looked into it for 60 days. After his comments, the investigation found no evidence to suggest that the Browns' 4-year plan or the club's ownership or football personnel sought to lose or incentivize losses, and made no decisions deliberately to weaken the team to secure a more favorable draft position. And apparently, I guess they didn't talk to Hugh Jackson, which is weird. Especially if you're coming out with that claim that you wouldn't talk to them and give them, why you said what you said. But I don't know. He apparently didn't talk to them, and that's pretty much the end of it.
Well, now let's see what happens with Miami.
Oh, you meant Ross and them. Yeah. Hey, Roger Dodger in the chat room, back to what we were talking about with NIL and USC and Jordan. He makes a point of Caleb Williams knows Addison from the DMV area in high school. Williams, of course, was in Washington, I believe, Washington, D.C. area, and Addison played his high school football. He was in Maryland. So maybe there's a connection there from Frederick, Maryland, also knows Caleb Williams. And if players call other players and recruit them, is that tampering?
No, that's the way around it. They're not. I think that's as much of the way around it as there is. And then there's the agents or whatever wannabe agents that are not affiliated with the school. So long as the school doesn't have anything to do with it, then that's fine. And I just saw J.D. Piquel, who is one of our coworkers, and he was talking, I guess, something about the Jordan Addison deal. And I just happened to catch this tweet a second ago. Somebody asked him what he thinks about the Jordan Addison deal because he was talking about NIL. And he said, I don't think it's right, and there's reasonable reservations to have about the NIL format, which is really what all we've been saying is like, yeah, go with it, but like just, clean it up a little bit. But then he says, however, if Pitt was willing to put together a big deal from the start, we aren't even talking about him going to USC. And that's where I kind of disagree somewhat. Pitt shouldn't have to put together a big deal from the start necessarily. And even if they should, or even if they did, do you think they're going to keep matching USC? So if the whole thing you want to put it on the school for not giving them a big enough deal to fend off USC, well, there's nothing that's ever going to stop that. And guess who benefits? The same 10 freaking schools that everybody's, oh, no, it's cool, man, it's cool. But it's the same schools because they're the ones that have the most fan base. They're the ones that have the most money. And look, if it leads to the re-rise of USC and Miami and they are in the national championship game rather than Georgia, Alabama every year, okay, that will be great. But, don't blame Pitt for this. Like, it's not their fault that they don't have enough money to match an offer for Jordan Addison. It's not their fault that he's leaving. I mean, if there was some big disagreement that caused him to look away in the first place, then maybe you could say it was on them. But that's kind of what the whole deal is like, why does Pitt suffer from this? What did they do incorrectly exactly? It's all great for Jordan Addison, but I don't blame the school for not matching NIL offers because I imagine there's only so much they can do, and that's a pretty big school. That's not like some tiny little private school either. So, they're just going to be outbidding by the same people over and over and over again ultimately.
Yeah, and,
And I think you can probably pick and choose your battles.
Well, that's why there needs to be some kind of contractual agreements eventually if you want to stop this from doing it.
Then
that's
we're
where
really
it's going.
getting into full-blown employment and unions and all of that stuff, which is maybe where it's headed. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I just wanted to bring that up because, I see his point, but – and, I'm sure Baylor in some cases, not being the biggest and not being the richest, like they've definitely gotten involved in NIL, and there's definitely probably some player in particular that they've, put together a little pot of money for more than maybe a little pot to a little pot of money for, to lure them, but they're not going to be able to do that with everybody, and they're only going to be able to do that in certain occasions. So I'd imagine maybe Pitt should have had their ducks in a row, and maybe they could offer Jordan Addison something massive right away. But I mean, gosh, you're asking a lot of these schools are, yes, they're making a lot of money, but they're also spending a lot of money. It's not like all that just goes into accounts and then is just, personal money. That goes back into facilities. That goes back into improvements, and that goes back into a lot of other different things. So, yeah, anyways, it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy.
And we could do and talk about this every single day, and probably are going to end up doing that as well. Pittsburgh has 28,000 students, undergraduates 19,200. Tony was saying it's a private school.
Is it?
It's a public school. A public state-related research university in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Tony's good. Tony knows what he's old school AAU. But he says Pitt's a private school. But I never thought of Pittsburgh as a private school. It used to be back in the day Pittsburgh Academy when it first was opened in 1787. When we come back, David Hellman, his thoughts on the Cowboys draft, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, and as you get older, maybe you used to be. Testosterone levels in men, 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Energy, not the same. Sleep habits, erratic. Sex drive, not the same. So what do? Get your blood work. Contact Dr. Kent Petty, pettycliniclowt.com, upper left-hand corner, email or phone number, and tell them I sent you, or him I sent you. He'll set you up to get your lab work, look at the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it with pettycliniclowt.com, a program to increase your testosterone levels so you can become the high-performance man you used to be and need to be and want to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
At Allen Samuels in Waco, we're committed to taking care of our customers, and that means having as much new inventory on hand for you to choose from. During the Memorial Day sales event, shop our large selection of 2022 cars, trucks, and SUVs to find the vehicle that's right for you. Need maintenance or repair? Let our skilled technicians take care of your vehicle, and we'll get you back on the road safer than before. We're not here just to sell you one car. We're here for the long haul. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and 3. To the outside. Elliott into the end zone. He goes for the touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. We've spoken to one of the Baylor players, Terrell Bernard, selected by Buffalo. Xavier Newman-Johnson, signed as an undrafted free agent by Tennessee, as among the 11 players from Baylor. And, of course, we discussed a little bit early the NFL draft and some of the trends and stories. And David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, joins us now on Sikkim 365 Radio. David, of all of what was said and then what you've learned or listened to, or you yourself being a part of the DallasCowboys.com, was the Tyler Smith selection 2 days later. Do you feel better about it?
I think I feel more informed. I didn't feel bad about it when it happened. It's just it's one of those. I think it was outside of the pre-prescribed narrative. The names. It was a name that we weren't really onto as much as some others, and I think fair to say some people saw it as a reach. That's totally fair. But like I said, I feel more informed. I had a chance to actually visit with Tyler Smith. I think he's a hell of an impressive kid. And then, once you actually know who the player is, you can kind of start digging around on who he is and why they took him. I still think there are very valid concerns. And I honestly think the way the draft fell, it's going to make it very easy for us to track, because I think three of the most high-profile names in this class, Tyler Linderbaum, Devin Lloyd, and Jermaine Johnson, all went off the board 1, 2, 3 right after him. So I think it's going to make it very easy for us to keep track of who made a good decision and who made a bad decision. But like I said, I think I feel more informed because I knew who he was and I knew what the issues were. But I think I have a better idea of the type of potential he has, and potential is what this pick was all about.
My issue with the pick, I guess, David, was a couple of flaws. And again, he might wind up being great, and I have nothing against him. It's just when you have to justify your draft sheet by showing it to people the next day, it makes me a little nervous. And two, when the knock on a guy is that he commits too many penalties, and the staff he's going to is one that kind of ignored that very issue with the guy that he's replacing the year before, it troubles me. And that this may not be the best match for his talents.
Which, again, I mean, I can't ease your concerns in the sense that I have no idea how good or bad Tyler Smith is going to be. But again, you talk about doing due diligence. The people here and then people back at Tulsa will tell you, yes, this guy was penalized a lot, but the evaluators see this as a case of a guy who got penalized, for lack of a better word, for bullying people. Like, I talked to somebody who said, there's a difference between getting flagged for holding because you lose track of your man and you reach and grab, or you get hands on this guy and put him on the ground and the ref sees the defender go down to the ground and call a flag. Another thing I learned over the last few days that I thought was really illuminating is that some big-time programs were on this kid trying to convince him to transfer to start for them next year, Alabama being one of them. Somebody legitimately was like, if I told you this kid was being tabbed to play left tackle at Alabama to replace Evan Neal, who just got drafted in the top 10, would that make you feel better about his ability? And I was like, yeah, I think it would. But again, he's just turned 21 3 weeks ago. And the penalties happened. There were 15 or 16 of them. That's all very real. it's a projection. He's a raw player compared to what you typically want in a first round pick, and I think that's the concerning thing. Because I think at the very least, the last 2 first round picks were guys that had the talent and looked like they were ready to come in and star right away. And I think this one is a little bit more of a projection of where he could be in a year or two. So like I said, I don't know how well it'll work out, but I can certainly see the Cowboys' line of thinking for why it was worth taking the risk.
David, as somebody who spends weeks, if not months, in the lead up to the draft talking about it, how entertained were you by that first round, just all the craziness going on in that slew of wide receiver picks?
I mean, I said it a million times. I was like, I just hope it lives up to the billing, and I really thought it did. I mean, it wasn't that surprising in terms of the names that got called. There were very few surprising picks in terms of like, oh my God, who is that guy? Why is he getting drafted here? But yeah, I mean, the number of trading up for receivers. A.J. Brown gets dealt in the middle of the whole thing. Hollywood Brown gets dealt. The Ravens traded back twice. Only one quarterback went, which I thought was a pleasant surprise, honestly. It's kind of nice to see NFL teams behave with restraint for a change. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was thrilling. Like I said, I think in general we had a pretty good idea of who would get selected, but the order that it all happened with and the frenzy of it all was very entertaining.
What about the trades and all of that? You're talking about that as well. What did it mean to you? What other teams got for their receivers and what the Cowboys got for Amari Cooper?
Well, I mean, I think it all ties together. Obviously, I think the price points are a little bit different for a variety of reasons. I mean, we've been over this time and time again. I mean, the Cowboys couldn't get a better price on Amari Cooper because they telegraphed the fact that they had to get rid of him. I mean, when your salary becomes guaranteed on the 5th day of the league year, you're giving your opponents all the leverage. But I really think we're seeing a trend happen in front of us in very real time where teams know how expensive good receiver play is, and unless you have one of the 5 real studs that's worth paying, just go draft another one. Or even in the case of the Titans, they didn't think A.J. Brown was in that category, and I think it's probably fair the Cowboys didn't feel that way about Amari Cooper either. So unless you really, really feel like you've got the guy that's worth paying $25 million to, teams are just going to say, no thanks, I'll just go draft the guy that's only going to make $950,000 this year. I mean, and it's perfect example. I mean, the Titans got a first-round pick in exchange for A.J. Brown, and they turned around and used it on Treylon Burks right away. And Treylon Burks is the exact same type of receiver as A.J. Brown. So teams are looking for creative ways to keep their salaries under control. I can't wait to see how it works out for everybody because, in theory, it's a great idea, but it's awfully risky to assume you can just pluck another A.J. Brown. I love that type of stuff, though. I love kind of seeing the trends of how teams are trying to stay ahead of the salary cap. And I think we're going to be seeing this for the next few years because, I mean, you already think about the guys coming down the pipe. I mean, CeeDee Lamb is good. Is he worth the type of money that receivers are commanding right now? I don't think you can say that. Is Justin Jefferson going to be able to get a deal that sets the top of the market? And on and on and on. I mean, DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel, their situations with their respective teams right now. I think this is going to be a thing that goes on for a few years longer while the league tries to get a handle on what this wide receiver market looks like.
Do you have a favorite pick in this class for the Cowboys?
I mean, I'm nothing if not a blatant homer. So to get an LSU guy in the 5th round that was talented enough to be a 2nd round pick. I mean, if Damone Clark doesn't have to have neck surgery, he would have been a top 100 pick. I mean, I think he finished 2nd in college football in tackles. He's a tackling machine. So I thought it was amazing value to get him in the 5th round. And the Cowboys are very optimistic that he'll be healthy as soon as November or so. Who else? Jalen Tolbert's a hell of a player, I think. And I'm guilty of this. I tend to sleep on guys from small schools because, yeah, I'm an SEC guy. I'm just so used to watching the top level of college football talent. But Jalen Tolbert had a wonderful Senior Bowl. He was a fantastic player at South Alabama. And the Cowboys considered drafting him at 56. So to get him a full round later at 88, I thought that was really good value as well.
David, anybody jump off to you as far as their undrafted free agent signings go?
Yeah, I think so. Alec Lindstrom, I think, is a name worth knowing. He's a center out of Boston College. I mean, I saw grades. And again, this class was so fascinating because the grades are all over the place. I mean, a lot of people saw y'all's guy, Tyquan Thornton, as like a third or fourth round pick, and he goes top 50 to the Patriots. The Patriots drafted a guard with a 5th round grade in the 1st round. Like, they don't give a damn what anybody thinks. So, yeah, I mean, like, the grades are just all over the map. Like, throughout the 2nd and 3rd day of the draft, you find yourself going like, damn, he went there? Okay, that's a little sooner than I was expecting. Or like, damn, he fell a lot further than I would have guessed. So I say all that to say Alec Lindstrom is a guy that a lot of people had as good of a grade as like a 4th or 5th round pick on him. And they get him an undrafted free agency. Obviously, a lot of people would prefer the Cowboys to upgrade their center talent with Tyler Biadasz there. So I'm not saying he's going to like take anybody's job, but that was certainly when I saw that he had signed an undrafted free agency, I was like, wow, that's a much better player than you would guess from an undrafted free agent. And then, I mean, it's easy, but obviously the kicker. I mean, I would assume Jonathan Garibay is going to have a chance to be the Cowboys kicker if he has a good training camp. So I mean, that's money well spent right there.
Well, and he can kick it from 80 yards, as we know, so that means that you don't have to move the ball. In all honesty, of all the players drafted, I know I like the kid, the receiver from South Alabama. How many of them do you expect to truly start next year?
And I think that is what has people kind of wringing their hands about this class, and I get it because I wrote about this today. Actually, is there are drafts that are about instant impact, and there are drafts that are sort of more developmental. I mean, 2 years ago, we sat here 2 days after the draft, and we were like, yeah, C.D. Lamb's the starting receiver, Trayvon Diggs is the starting cornerback on this team, and Neville Gallimore is going to be a big piece of the rotation. Like, that's 3 guys all in a row that I think are going to start or play heavily from day one. Here, I think it's probably 2, but I really only feel super, super great about 1. I mean, I think Tyler Smith will start. I think he's talented enough to do that. But again, how quickly can he develop? How quickly can they coach him up? I do think I think there's more of a learning curve to it than just plug and play. And then Sam Williams will play, but is he going to start? I mean, he's certainly not going to start over DeMarcus Lawrence. And then you talk about Dante Fowler, who was a former top 5 pick, who's been in the league for 5 or 6 years at this point, as well as Dorrance Armstrong, who you just gave a lot of money to. So is he going to start? I doubt it. So really that leaves you with Jalen Tolbert, who's a hell of a player, don't get me wrong, but that is probably the only rock-solid, definite starter, in my opinion, among this group. And even he'll probably have some competition with James Washington. So I think the Cowboys are banking that this class is going to look really, really good in 2 years. But I get people's concerns that in terms of like instant impact, I don't think this class has as much oomph as some ones we've seen in the past.
Doesn't this class, though, kind of overlap with the offseason as a whole, where the fans have one idea of things and the Cowboys do not share it? For whatever reason, for better or worse, we'll only know in the future.
Oh, of course. And yeah, I mean, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, at the end of the day, the Cowboys don't give a damn. Like, they're going to pick the players they want, and they've got an idea of what they are, and they don't care what any of us think about it. Sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And I think, to your point, a big part of it, too, is I can sit here and say, like, oh, is this guy going to be ready? Is he going to be an instant impact starter? And the Cowboys will probably look at that and say, well, you forget, we drafted 11 guys last year, and we're counting on all of those guys to continue to ascend and really grow into what we think they can be. I mean, it's remarkable when you think about it. They drafted 11 guys last year. They all made the team. They drafted 9 guys this weekend, and I think all of them have a good chance to make the team. So that's almost half of your active roster that would have been drafted in the last 2 years. So something's got to give there. I mean, you're either going to have the youngest roster in the NFL, or you're going to have to make some tough decisions one way or the other. So I can't wait to see how it all shakes out and see how much of this young talent is able to rise to those expectations.
David, when Jerry flashed that draft sheet, did you try to screen cap and zoom in on that bad boy, or did anybody else get any info off that thing?
I'm not going to be the one that does it because at the end of the day, they sign my check. So like, I'm not going to be the one that leaks their draft board, but I guarantee you there's so much interest in this team, and there's so many people following along and covering this team in their own ways. Like, I guarantee you somebody has tried to get their hands on that. Somebody's tried to like screenshot it and clean up the contrast and all that. I will say, I heard it was only their first round board. Like, I heard it was only their top 30 or so players. Like, Jerry didn't flash the entire 7-round board. So at least there's that. But yeah, I guarantee you there's some people out there with the right photoshopping skills and stuff who are trying to get that thing cleaned up so they can take a look at it. I would bet you $10.
Where's NCIS when we need them? They have the ability
to
take a license plate and it poof, it's like clear as a bell. All right, David, thank you. Appreciate your time. Do you decompress? Do you decompress for a couple of days or what?
Took about 3 naps yesterday, and yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be chill here for a couple of weeks before OTAs get ramped up. So hopefully try to kind of catch my breath and remember what it's like to live in society, something like that. So yeah, I mean, I'll do my best. I don't think I'm going to no time for vacation or anything like that, but I'm going to try to duck out of the office early as often as possible for the next few weeks.
Good for you. You earned it. Thank you, David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com. There was a story earlier, the Cowboys had interest in Marquise Bell from Florida A&M.
Strike, Rattlers.
And that was reflected, a contract, the undrafted rookie, $200,000 guaranteed of his salary plus a $15,000 signing bonus. We discussed players who were not drafted and why would they not have been drafted, and they ended up getting more undrafted plus a better fit in some ways as well.
The fantastic city of Tallahassee delivers again.
Florida A&M. Florida A&M.
I thought their draft was solid enough. I mean, obviously there was not a lot of big name guys, so you kind of have to dive a little further to learn about Jalen Tolbert from South Alabama. I don't know how many people were watching their games necessarily, but I thought that they pretty much addressed what they needed to. I thought the Commanders had an all right draft, but the Eagles and Giants, man, they went bonkers this weekend. Of course, you've got to have picks pan out, and the Giants, it was just a couple years ago we were talking about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, and that's already almost basically scrapped at this point, but they did make some nice moves, and the Eagles obviously were all in on A.J. Brown. So it was interesting to see the NFC East just as a whole, kind of who got better and who maybe stayed about the same. And I think Dallas, probably stayed about the same. I think Washington probably stayed about the same ultimately, but I do think New York and Philadelphia got better.
I totally agree with you. I look, Philadelphia needed a guy like A.J. Brown, and maybe in the long term he's not going to live to $100 million, but I guarantee you he will in the short term for them. He's still one of the best guys in the league. I think that's a great pickup for them. And the Giants to go from a front office that was a cluster lost and didn't realize what they were doing to, okay, let's make this easy. Who are the best players we can draft? Oh, it's Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. Let's do that. Yeah. Let's not try to...
Let's draft the best players like the Ravens have been doing forever.
Two guys who at one point in time over the last year, and we got to go, but were mentioned as possible number 1 overall picks, and you got both of them.
Yep. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5. By the way, Brandon Katz, appreciate all of what you're saying on the chat room. Not able to get to all of it, but a lot of great opinions. Thanks for your feedback. Top 5 is next.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs, Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Top 5 NFL draft observations. And bear with me a little bit while I have to scroll here, guys. But
when you're not ready,
I'm ready.
This is it. No more of this if you're not ready.
I'm ready. Number 5, the Ravens had the best draft. When you go Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum in the first round, and then you get David Ojabo in the second round, a guy who a lot of people thought could be a first rounder, fill every need that you have. You get Charlie Kolar in the fourth round, trading up ahead of the Cowboys, who totally would have taken him. I don't care how much they might like Jake Ferguson. They totally would have taken Charlie Kolar first. And just then you get Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina 11 picks later, and you had 3 deep tight ends now, all that are pretty well thought of. I love what the Ravens did. I love what the Ravens do every year. I'm kind of always amazed that they're always in the NFC Championship game, but they're so smart with their draft and the way they handle things. Plus, you trade Marquise Brown, who ultimately didn't fit what you were doing. Now, do you have a problem at wide receiver? Maybe.
Wait a minute. Did they trade Marquise Brown to Arizona because Arizona knew DeAndre Hopkins was about to be suspended?
Well, we'll talk about the Cardinals here in one tick up, but maybe so. But then you get a first round pick out of them for a guy that you clearly don't really want that much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just give me the Ravens draft every year, and my team will be fine.
You know what? And Newsom's no longer there. Ozzie Newsome, the Hall of Famer, but he set the tone on how to do it, and they followed the script.
Yeah, DaCosta is their GM, and he learned at the feet of Ozzie Newsome and learned very well. Number 4, Kyler Murray runs the Cardinals, because this was a rumor back when the whole I'm deleting my Twitter thing, or
which has basically become like it means nothing.
Silly,
it's like, okay, you want money, okay, we got it.
But one of the seemingly ridiculous sounding rumors at the time was that he said he wanted them to trade for Marquise Brown. Well, they did that, so maybe that wasn't a rumor. And he and Marquise Brown Hollywood are really good friends, and now they've done that with DeAndre Hopkins being suspended for 6 games, and maybe he gets it reduced for performance-enhancing drugs. But Kyler Murray got what he wanted, and I don't know if the Cardinals really got better in this draft. I mean, I like the Trey McBride pick, but to pretend like the guys in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round are going to make them better instantly would be a stretch for me to sit here and tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, the quarterback, except for in Green Bay, typically gets what they want, right? Yeah. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just watching defensive players go off the board left and right. But, Kyler is their guy. The contract thing's all silly. It's going to be worked out. He's going to get his money. There's no need for all these guys to feel like they have to, temporarily suspend Instagram or whatever they're doing.
Delete their association with.
Yeah, team, more of that actually. You're right, but yeah, that's all just kind of silly online games. And Kyler, he's got a big say obviously, because otherwise they're not going and trading for Marquise Brown when they did, and not him in particular necessarily.
Yeah, the number 3, the Eagles got better through trades and the draft in a hurry. A.J. Brown, we just talked about in the last segment, that's going to make them better because they didn't have a receiver like him. They had a bunch of smaller guys. Devontae Smith had a great year. Those guys together are a good compliment. Hopefully for them, Jalen Reagor can be something more than a kick returner, but we'll see, especially if he's now reduced to kind of a 3rd receiver, 4th receiver role.
That's a first-round pick, too.
Yeah, that's a first-round pick. But to get Jordan Davis as the heir apparent to Fletcher Cox, that's really good. Nebraska center Cam Jurgens, that's a solid pick. He's one of the best players that Nebraska's had in the last decade, probably. And Nakobe Dean at 83 overall could be huge for them.
Yeah, I mean, if he's fully healthy, because that's what the rumor mill was for his fall was just health concerns, but he still went, it's not like he went undrafted or anything. So, yeah, I mean, just name recognition-wise, they had a loaded, star-studded draft, especially when you combine the trade for A.J. Brown in there. So, like I said a few minutes ago, I think the Eagles definitely got better, and they should give the Cowboys a little bit of a run this year.
Yeah, number 2. Number 2, the Jets and Texans both did very, very well, and that's something that we can't say most years because that's why they're in the spots that they are. The Texans, more of their stuff was, to me, early on. Afterwards, of course, is going to be more of a reach, but their first 4 picks to me, Derek Stingley, Kenyon Green, Jalen Petrie, and John Mechie. And look, linebacker Christian Harris from Alabama at 75. That's really, really good. And we'll see what happens, with Dameon Pierce, the running back from Florida. There's kind of a bigger need that they didn't address till later. But I love the first 5 picks. I think the first 4 especially are people who, especially once Mechie is healthy, will contribute immediately. And the Jets trading back into the first round to get Jermaine Johnson and have the kind of draft that they did where you have Jermaine Johnson and Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson before you even get to day 2 really, really, really impressed me.
Yeah, they had good drafts.
And Breece Hall. Yeah. In day 2, yeah.
Breece Hall, another, Big 12 got shut out in the first round, but they had Petrie and Breece Hall right there. I mean, and Breece Hall 1 pick away from being a first-round pick. So, not like it was completely dire. But, yeah, I mean, I really liked what the Jets did. I definitely think that they've actually maybe got a plan now, actually have, real leadership, and it's not as dysfunctional as it has been the last several years. And I trust in Lovey and those guys that they know what they're doing talent evaluation-wise. There's no big expectations right now. They just got to rebuild that thing, and I think rebuilding it with guys from Bama and then guys like Jalen Petrie, it's a good way to go.
I worry about the future in New York of Denzel Mims, but that's been kind of a long-term worry.
And that's on Denzel Mims. Yeah. Ultimately, I mean, he's got to be healthy and he's got to be able to contribute when he is healthy. So, he's been talking big game this offseason that I've seen of, putting in extra work and doing all that. But, you ultimately got to prove it because they put, some pretty good stock into you and not much has come out of it just yet.
And number 1, the Cowboys continue the offseason of meh. I mean, their whole draft is meh. Yeah, maybe it's going to be good. There are things that you like. Jalen Tolbert, I think, is the best pick overall and the best value. I'm not as excited about Jake Ferguson as I would have been about Charlie Kolar, but, I've kind of come around at him a little bit. Damone Clark, You heard Hellman just say he could have been a second-round pick, but this is a team that needs guys now, and they drafted someone with a redshirt year. I think their problem is just not very self-aware. They don't know who they are. And these guys might all be really good players, but do the Cowboys know who they are and that these guys are going to be able to be coached up by the guys they have when, look, in Tyler Smith's case, if you had a problem with penalties in the offensive line and the offensive lineman you draft has a problem with penalties, it's not necessarily about Tyler Smith. Can you help him stop that?
Well, he's either going to end up being really, really a hell of a pick or he's going to be off the team in a couple of 3 years.
Well, that's pretty much everybody's route.
But I mean, for a guy to be picked that high for the first-round pick, he could be a stud, and I know that's every player. Could be the first guy picked, but they're not in a position to be able to miss right now as they're trying to keep up with everybody else who's better than them.
Yeah, I just thought it was an okay draft. I didn't think there was anything that was just like blow you away, exciting, or anything that was just dire. Even the Tyler Smith stuff can kind of be explained away. I know Philip Montgomery, who we know, his Tulsa head coach, had a big article on DallasCowboys.com kind of explaining away some of that. So, maybe it's all, wringing of hands for no reason, and he does turn into the next Tyron Smith. But just in general, I didn't walk away feeling like this was some extravagant draft or some great celebration. I thought they just kind of made their picks, and there was others that were a lot more exciting, but we'll see how it shakes out.
Look, if I want to stop doing heroin, I don't go into rehab run by Amy Winehouse, okay? I don't. And I think that's
R.I.P.
No. Yeah. I mean, like, that's a harsh example, but that's kind of what the Cowboys are with penalties here. It just I have to, step back a little bit, but even still, I wonder if they are completely self-aware of who they are.
I don't know if they are. At some point, they've done pretty well in the draft, and they've done pretty well with their 1-year free agent pickups. All right, thanks to Faith Lynch for being here. Jack McKenzie actually stayed for the entire show, and Armstrong Sims, he's here as well. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, I'm David Smoak. Thank you, everybody on the chat room. Thanks to those in the text room and also a text line, and also thanks to our incredible sponsors.
Will Jordan Addison be on USC by tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that's probably.
You think so?
Okay. I think by Wednesday.
All right.
It's not tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow. Be careful about any direct messages you get on Twitter about a blue check mark. It's spam or phishing or whatever they call it. Thank you. Good night. Sikkim 365 Radio.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.